Welcome back to another episode of Is Fitz Happy? I'm Luke,
And I'm Emma.
and this week we're discussing chapter 23, The Beach. Welcome to the new year, first of all.
Yeah,
It's
Happy New Year.
2026 now.
Woo.
Hopefully I can remember to update all of the things where it says 2025 on our websites and stuff. So,
For sure. That's
Yep.
definitely going to happen.
mm-hmm. It's definitely going to happen for sure.
Right away, too. Midnight on the dot. The first thing we're doing.
All right, so the epigraph of this chapter is an excerpt from Hailfire, who is the skill master to Queen Frugal. And it's talking about how the skill feels and how it acts, and it relates it to a human's experience. So Hailfire finishes up this quote by saying, "This is why to master the skill, one must first master the self."
Right. And this is big, especially for this chapter, because I think it really ties in the theme of how flawed Fitz is, but also how hard it's going to be moving forward for Fitz in teaching the prince and anyone else that comes along how to master the skill, because Fitz hasn't mastered himself, let alone the skill.
Right.
And so it's just this like big responsibility that's coming forward. And it doesn't matter that Fitz is a grown up now and has lived a life as an adult for many years. He still is a novice when it comes to the skill ultimately.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, because he doesn't have that master over himself. So I also do want to say this makes me want to look towards the aftermath of getting his full memories back and see if that helps with his skill in any way,
Yeah.
and see how in the final trilogy how he does with skill and using skill, having skill used against him, and just see if there's anything to the fact that like maybe right now it's a little bit harder than it would have been just because he isn't full.
I remember the final trilogy being not a lot of pure skill user versus Fitz. Like it doesn't really
Right.
happen anymore because they're all, from the white breeding program, they all have these unique abilities kind of
Right.
thing. So it's going to be hard to tell, but yeah, we can see if we can pick up any of those nuances there.
Yeah.
So the end of last chapter, Fitz dragged Dutiful into the skill pillar, and he starts this one saying, "I had expected darkness and disorientation. I had expected the skill pulling at me and a struggle to hold the prince and myself together." And so he describes what he was doing and how it was incredibly hard to try to hold both himself and get a grasp on the prince as well. And he says that there was the same sensation that if I relaxed my grip at all, he would trickle away from me. There was all that and an illogical sensation that we fell upward. And so Fitz is, believing that this is going to be a struggle like all the previous times he's been through a skill pillar, except there's that illogical sense of falling upward and then they shoot out into the ocean, like immediately.
Yeah, they're underwater when they
Yes.
come through the portal.
Mhm.
There's also sort of that talk about how he is centering himself and Dutiful and holding both of them together.
Yeah.
And this is a theme that persists throughout the entire chapter. And I think it's really interesting that we have Fitz consciously making the effort of remembering who Dutiful is, because obviously we all know from reading that the skill sort of pulls that away from you. It unravels your being. And so you have to really center others and yourself in yourself, your sense of self, to get yourself to stay together. And
Yeah.
here we have sort of the hint of Dutiful isn't really staying together very well, and Fitz is having to do a lot of that for him by holding on.
Yeah, and it's kind of also reminiscent from the previous chapters when they were kind of guarding over the prince's body when his mind was away into the cat, and Fitz set his skill barriers to surround the prince, not knowing if it would actually do anything.
Right.
And I think this is kind of the same thing where Fitz isn't sure exactly if it's helping or if
Yeah.
it's working because he's fumbling through the skill as much as kind of the readers are.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's doing all of this and expecting a big struggle, and we get a little hint of that he can't quite hold everything perfectly, but they go through really quickly anyways.
Right. And it is really interesting, right? Because we know that the skill pillar really doesn't have a set way in this time period to be used. And so sometimes people are shot out immediately after they touch the pillar. Sometimes they are in there for a week without knowing it. I feel like this might be one of the times where it is an instant.
It is,
It's
yes.
not sort of the being trapped in there for a long time. It is hard to tell because, again, in skill, Fitz mentions it this chapter too, but there's no sense of time. There's just things happening. So, but I think
It could be a matter of hours, but definitely not days, because when they go back, the Fool and Night Eyes are like captured, and they're just kind of like, it's like a day later or maybe 2 days later or something.
Yeah.
We'll get to that time skip when we get there, but
right.
There's not much of a time difference in this jump.
Yeah,
I believe.
Yes, I just wanted to point out that is a possibility that could be happening in here, but as far as we're aware, it's not happening this time.
Yeah. So they are shot out into the ocean, and immediately it's a struggle because Fitz was not expecting that, and nor was Dutiful. He's astounded by what has happened at all. So Fitz is trying to grab and hold on to Dutiful so they don't get lost together, but eventually they do kind of get flung apart by the force of the water, and they are being kind of washed up onto shore, and Fitz is struggling to like get up onto shore and not be knocked down and drag the prince with him when he finds him again. And it's a real kind of page and a half description of how awful it is trying to escape an ocean that is angry.
Yeah, well, and it's not just that, it's the tide is going up.
Yeah.
And they're being thrown onto a beach that is a rocky beach that is
barnacle encrusted.
Yeah. It's not comfortable. This isn't like pristine sand that they're being thrown onto. It's hard rocks that are being torn up and or are tearing up their skin, and it's disorienting. They don't even know where they're at or what's going on, and they have to sort of like come together. And we see Fitz sort of grasp the situation pretty quickly, whereas Dutiful is still sort of dazed. And it's to me unclear if this is he's dazed because of the rip away from his skill or wit partner, if it's because of the use of skill suddenly, or if this is just because he is half drowned. Like, there's a lot going on, but Dutiful isn't catching on really at all and is sort of really slow to the pickup here. And
Fitz has had a lifetime training of recognizing a situation and acting fast, right?
Yeah.
Real life experience and training in those situations. And Dutiful, even though he's trained well, is not trained in that sort of thing. Right. Has not experienced any kind of adrenaline, sudden change of environment, I need to act now situations.
And I guess, I mean, Fitz was born, or well, not born, but was raised during wartime, whereas Dutiful is not known war.
Fitz went to war.
Literally, yeah. So like at the same age that Dutiful is now, like there is differences. And I'm not trying to shame Dutiful for it. I just do want to point out that he is really slow on the uptake and seems a little dazed throughout. I mean, there's a lot of that sort of thing about his characteristics so far is that he is sort of not all there, and I don't think it's because he is incapable or there's something wrong. I think it just goes to show how in depth he is meshed with his cat.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, the skill pillar too, that disorientates anybody.
Right. And he does say later that he's never truly known how to use the skill or what it means to use the skill. And so this is potentially the first time he's ever used it, and that is dangerous because he has been opened up to this wonderful world of skill.
Yeah. So they finally make it onto shore here, and Dutiful looks around and says, with the expression of a confused child, Fitz says, "What happened? We came through a skill pillar." "A what?" "A skill pillar." I looked back to point it out to him, but there was nothing out there but ocean. Another wave rushed in, reaching higher up the beach. Scummy white foam laced the sand as the water retreated. I came awkwardly to my feet and stared out over the incoming tide. just water. Moving waves, crying gulls above the waves. No skill pillar of black stone broke that heaving green surface. There was not even a clue as to where it had been deposited us out, offshore. No way back. I had left my friends to die. Regardless of what the fool had said, I had resolved to return immediately via the pillar. Otherwise, I would not have gone. I would not have done it if I had thought I was not going to go back to them. Telling myself that did not make me feel a shard less cowardly. Night Eyes, I quested desperately, flinging the call with all my strength. No one answered. Fool! The word ripped out of me, a futile scream of wit and skill and voice. Distant gulls seemed to echo it mockingly. My hope faded with their dwindling cries over the windswept sea.
So this is pretty devastating for Fitz because he believes now that he truly has left his friends for dead.
Yeah, with no way back either.
Yeah.
And I see that passage of him saying, like, there's no way back. I wouldn't have done it if I didn't think I could go back. I think that is true. I think Fitz would have gone back. But with Fitz's mindset, it's also convincing himself.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of both in a weird way.
Okay.
In my mind.
I feel like Fitz would have turned around and went back for them if this was a normal skill pillar situation.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if his mind would have been changed if he would have known the outcome of where. I'm not convinced because it is sort of Nettle's life in the balance. And so
Right.
I think ultimately he would have done it regardless. But yeah, I don't know. It's really hard. I feel bad for him because now he is trapped with Dutiful, who seems to really get under his skin
Yeah.
in a weird way that like really aggravates him. So he's stuck.
Fitz stares out over the water for a while, and eventually the water rises up to lap near his feet. The prince had not moved except to fall back onto his side on the wet sand. He lay staring blankly and shivering. The tide is coming in, and Fitz becomes the wolf and turns his mind to survival. Get up, we have to move before the tide traps us. Up, unless you want to drown here. The lad lurched to his feet without protest, and Fitz, as they're walking, finding kind of a dry area, is, of course, feeling awful. They left a horrible situation, first of all, with all their goodbyes, and Fitz is daring not to consider what he has just done. It was too monstrous to consider, he says. While I walked down this beach, did their blood flow down swords? I stopped my mind. As if I were setting walls against an intrusive mind, I blocked all feelings from myself. I stopped all thoughts and became a wolf, concerned only with the now.
So I thought this was really interesting because we have been talking a lot about how some of the effects of Fitz putting his memories into Girl on Dragon may be affecting him. And I'm wondering if this capacity to be able to shut out emotions entirely is from that partial forging.
Maybe.
Because no offense to Fitz, but he's a pretty emotional guy. And in the first trilogy, to me, it didn't feel like he was ever able to truly put his feelings away.
Yeah.
He is always influenced by a feeling that happens to him. And I don't see that as necessarily a negative. I think that's just one of his characteristics. And we do see that emotions still do get through in this moment. But I think it's really interesting that the care for loved ones is able to be so easily sort of boxed up.
See, I think that's kind of why it is so easy to push aside, though. It's in the way that he describes it, right? It's too monstrous to consider. He's in shock that this could have happened because he's convinced himself that they're dead, right?
Right.
So he's like, I'm not even going to think about it. They're still alive if I don't think about it. It's part of that like ability to not confront himself of what he's truly feeling. And with over 15 years of living with a wolf, being convinced to live in the present more, I think he's able, with, how much they've influenced each other, use that Night Eye's influence to kind of push that aside right here now. So I don't think it's out of character for him to be able to do this, because I feel like it's more of an avoidance of
Okay.
I don't want to think about what happened. It's more of like that shock factor, the whole adrenaline rush of like, nope, don't need to. Focusing on this, I will deal with the emotional fallout later.
That's fair. Yeah. And I mean, ultimately, he's not all that successful in doing it, but he does
No.
say it a lot. He does remind
Yeah,
himself,
right.
I have to be in the now. I can't keep
Mhm.
thinking about this. So,
Because he's trying to convince himself not to.
yeah, which is,
fall
I
prey.
think, really well done because as someone with anxiety, I definitely do have moments where I'm like feeling that anxiety creep in and I have to keep reminding myself, like, hey, now's not a really good time to dwell on that. And like me thinking about it isn't going to change it and just like sort of redirecting. So I think it's really well done to have it continuously pop up for Fitz where he just keeps being reminded of the thing he's anxious on and has to keep consciously not thinking about it. It's yeah. But as he's struggling with this, the prince is not thinking about anything outside of what just happened, but in an excited way. Like he
Right.
is so awestruck by what just happened. What was that? Dutiful demanded suddenly. That feeling, that pulling. Worlds failed him. Was that the skill? Part of it, I answered brusquely. He seemed entirely too interested in what he had just experienced. Had it called to him that strongly? The skill's attraction was a terrible trap for the unwary. He tried to teach me, but he couldn't tell me what it felt like. I couldn't tell if I was doing it or not, and neither could he. But that, he expected a response to his excitement. I gave him none. The skill was the last thing I wanted to talk about just now. I didn't want to speak at all. I did not want to break the numbness that wrapped me.
Yeah, and this is kind of a distraction that Fitz probably should welcome if he's truly trying to shut it out, but he's just his emotional response, I mean. But
Yeah.
he's really just trying to be like, shut down any feeling in my body. I cannot interact with anybody. It's too close to the events. And his mind immediately goes to, oh, he's interested in the skill. Gotta shut that down because that's dangerous for the
Yeah.
unwary. Which it is. And that's how he was taught. That's how it was like hammered into him, right?
Right.
Galen did a lot of that. But it's so goofy that the first response is like, shouldn't be thinking like that, Prince. Did it call
Yeah.
to you that strongly? Uh-oh.
I really feel like for Fitz, Dutiful is almost a mirror of
Yeah.
confirmation of all the things that is wrong with himself. And he's seeing it reflected in Dutiful, like the wit and being drawn to the skill and all this sort of taint spreading through the wit and skill being mixed. And I really feel like, to me, that's what his big problem with Dutiful is that Dutiful is doing all the same things that Fitz struggled with,
Right.
but Dutiful doesn't have any of the shame behind it because nobody told Dutiful to be ashamed multiple times over his entire childhood. So I think that's also a really interesting aspect to look at in this and
So
how
Fitz can attach that shame to those actions and be like, this is awful because I probably tainted you with these things. And then look at Dutiful and be like, you don't have the right attitude for what's happening.
Yes. And so, but I mean, to be fair, there's also that extra layer of Dutiful truly knows nothing.
Right.
And
Yeah.
just got thrown in the deep end of a highly addictive magic that he has access to.
And Fitz doesn't want to be attached to any of this, right?
No.
He still wants to go back to his cabin and just chill.
Exactly. And so in classic Fitz form, instead of explaining anything or sort of being like, hey, it's real skill is really dangerous, like maybe be careful, don't just try that again. He just ignores it and tries to be extra mean to the prince to get the prince to leave him alone. And it doesn't work because the prince is too interested in what's going on. Too much is happening. He can't just silent treatment the prince or be gruff and get the prince to just sort of fall in line. It doesn't work like that. And Dutiful is just too, there's just too much happening for Dutiful to sit quietly anymore.
They continue walking for a bit and eventually reach a place along the stream where it's not brackish anymore. Start kind of washing their faces, cleaning out their mouths, that sort of thing. The prince speaks again and says, "What about Lord Golden and the Wolf? Where are they? What happened to them?" "They couldn't come. By now I imagine your friends have killed them." It amazed me that I could speak the words so flatly. No choking tears, no gasping breath. It was a thought too terrible to be real. I could not allow myself to consider it. Instead, I flung the words at him, hoping to see him flinch from them. But he just shook his head as if my words made no sense, then asked numbly, "Where are we?" "We are here," I replied and laughed. I had never known that anger and despair could make a man laugh. It was not a pleasant sound, and the prince cowered away from me for an instant. Then, in the next, he stood up very straight and pointed an accusing finger at me. "Who are you?" he demanded, as if he had suddenly discovered the one mystery that underlay all his questions. "Tom Badgerlock." I slicked my hair back with my wet hands. "For this. I was born with this white streak at my temple, and so my parents named me." "Liar." He spoke the word with flat contempt. "You're a farseer. You may not have the looks of a farseer, but you have the skill of one. Who are you? A distant cousin? Someone's byblow?" "I've been called a bastard many times in my life, but never by someone I might call a son." I looked up at Dutiful, Verity's and Ketrican's heir from the seed of my body. "Well, if I'm a bastard, I wonder what that makes you." What I said instead was, "Does it matter?"
It's really interesting to me how immature Fitz seems in this chapter. Like, I mean, I guess there is maturity in not saying the first thought that comes to your head, but he is getting riled up by being called a bastard after all this time. It still gets under his skin. Yeah. But it's so interesting to see that part of Fitz hasn't gone away, I guess. Like
Mhm.
I don't know how to explain this.
He was trapped, right?
Yeah.
With the memories from Girl on the Dragon.
Mm-hmm. He never really emotionally matured, and I feel like that shines through really well here.
Yeah.
And obviously there is maturity in some of the decisions. Like I said, he's
definitely
snapping, but he isn't thinking through all of his decisions. He's sort of letting his anger guide him. He is getting angry at things that is just a kid being a kid. And I don't know, I just find it so interesting. And then it's also so sad to have the son of his body point at him and be like, "You have to be a farseer bastard,"
even though you don't look like one.
Yeah, which is also crazy because as far as
you always say, like, don't people recognize him? He looks exactly like a farseer. But the fool was right. People won't recognize it.
But I think it's more what the fool said about people see what they expect to see. They're not looking for a farseer in him, so they don't see it.
True.
But Dutiful was raised seeing all the portraits of his father and chivalry, I'm sure. And
broken nose, white streak in the hair, servant. He's not a farseer.
But
Dutiful would have known if there was a farseer, you know?
Right.
Right.
No, I don't know. But it feels like I guess maybe he just had this thought of like, you have to be a farseer. But also, farseers aren't the only ones who skill.
No, but in this, I was thinking about that too. Yeah. And I think to rationalize it in my head why he said that, it's because of King Bounty, Shrewd's dad, that the skill became just a farseer thing anyways, right?
Right.
So it's multiple generations back from Dutiful now. And it was taught to Shrewd and to Chade that, like, hey, this is the king's magic. That's why Chade, the bastard, is not being taught. It is only king's magic. So it was beat into Dutiful's teacher that this is only the ruling family farseer magic.
But Chade was a grown adult when people not related to the farseers were called into the coterie that what's his name made.
Yeah, sure.
I can't even think of his name at the moment.
Regal?
But no, his half brother.
No, Galen?
Yes. Galen's coterie had one farseer, well, two when Fitz was part of it, but one farseer, and it was a distant cousin. Everybody else was not related. They were nobility, I think.
Yeah.
But So, like, that is in Chade's lifetime when he was a grown-up, not even just a kid, and he didn't know all the details. He knew all those details for the most part. So it's odd to me that then he would not say, hey, other people can also have this magic.
Yeah, but it's Chade with a new ability. I know he's going to be careful around Dutiful and try to treat him, with kitty gloves and be very soft with him. But it's still Chade around a new technology. He's going to dive headfirst and like, hey, if I can help you learn the skill, I can learn the skill too. So is he going to tell him the bad things about the recent past of the skill? Or
Well,
say like, this is your birthright. You can do this. Let's dive headfirst into it.
yeah. I mean, it wasn't that long. I mean, it was before Dutiful's time, technically, but
Right.
like, it's not that long ago. You'd think
No.
somebody would have brought it up.
Yes, but you can spin it easily and be like, see, this is why it stays as a king's magic and isn't taught to people. Like I'm making up a lot of stuff in my head right now, but in my mind, it makes a lot of sense that Dutiful is told a lot of things in the sense that he is sacrifice, but Ketrican and Chade would treat him carefully around those stories, especially since they surround his father, Verity. I think they would try to keep that as kind of like clean as possible in my mind, at least.
Okay.
And that's why, he's so curious about Verity later and like what actually happened. Like what's your story, Fitz Chivalry?
Okay.
That's how my headcanon for it at least goes. That Chade like tends to gloss over the dangers and the misuse of skill. And so because of that consequence, it's reinforced that it's just a kingly magic.
Okay. I don't know. But also, why would he gloss over the dangers of something that could kill the heir to the throne?
That's why I'm saying like he still treats him carefully and stuff, but I don't think because he doesn't know how to teach him. If he had the skill or like an inkling of the skill himself at this point, I think he would put Dutiful in a lot more danger than he is currently because he just doesn't know how to get there.
Okay.
So Fitz is thinking like, okay, the tide's coming up now. I'm stuck on the beach with Dutiful. There's no way to get back at this point. I hope in the morning when when the tide goes out, we can still see the skill pillar. If not, we're stuck here and we'll have to look for the skill pillar under the water.
Yeah. Or figure out a way back to Six Duchies.
Start walking.
Yeah.
They don't know this is an island. But and speaking on that note, Dutiful asks, okay, so we can't be that far then. It just took us a moment to get here. And Fitz has to educate him and be like, no. Magic, as such as we use, makes little of distance. We may not even be the Six Duchies anymore. And then in his head, he abruptly decides that that's all that he needs to know. Whatever I told him, the woman would likely know as well. The less said, the better. Which is a good reason at this point. However, it's just another excuse for Fitz not to explain anything to Dutiful.
Yeah. Also, I mean, it's hard because at first I wanted to say, if you can't reach Night Eyes, what makes you think he can reach his skill partner? But he thinks Night Eyes could potentially be dead or too afraid to connect. So there's that. And I understand that with the danger that the prince is in with his skill connection, you kind of have to just assume the worst. And clearly the prince does not care about giving up any secret he learns. So, and it touches on too, again, that sort of bias Fitz has about who gets to know what about the skill, because we saw that whenever Chade said that he was going to teach the prince. And he even had that against Chade. So I'm sure the thought of somebody not even royal or touched by skill could potentially learn a secret. No, could never happen. Not on Fitz's watch.
See, that's even kind of baked into Fitz of how non-farseers shouldn't know.
But I don't even think it's non-farseer. It's just like non-skill users.
Yeah.
Fitz is more about like, you don't even have the ability. You can't learn about it.
So with that answer of them not being in the Six Duchies anymore, potentially, Dutiful sinks down and Fitz describes him as as Dutiful's face had the look of an apprehensive child reaching out desperately for something familiar. Fitz doesn't really sympathize with him. Instead, he says, I repressed an urge to give him a firm whack on the back of the head. For this whimpering, self-obsessed juvenile, I'd traded the lives of my wolf and my friend. It seemed the poorest bargain I'd ever made. Nettle, I reminded myself, keeping him alive might keep her safe. Farseer heir or not, it was the only value that I could see in him just then. I am disappointed in my son. I examined that thought and reasserted to myself that Dutiful was not my son, and since I had never accepted any responsibility for his rearing, I had no right to be either disappointed or pleased by him. I walked away from him. I let the wolf in me have ascendancy, and he spoke to me of the need for immediate creature comfort. Which, I think it's valid for Fitz to have all of those feelings.
Yeah.
He can be disappointed in Dutiful. I think it's for the wrong reasons, and it's coming out of, his overwhelming grief that he is shoving aside at this point.
Yeah.
And, just the lack of knowledge that Dutiful has because he doesn't know anything that Fitz is going through.
Yeah.
But it's also extremely valid to be like, okay, no, I didn't raise this person.
Right.
I don't have a say in whether I am disappointed or pleased with him. And I think that's valid too, but he still can have those feelings. You just don't get to express those, right?
Yeah.
It's not fair to express those then and have you be an authority in that case.
Yeah.
So Fitz is kind of has a feeling, says like, maybe this isn't fair. And instead of continuing to feel the feeling and examine why that isn't fair, just shuts down and be, nope, I don't deserve feelings.
Yeah.
Creature comforts instead.
It's gotta be a wolf. Yeah. I think that it's really interesting to have the way that this is placed in the book. So in my copy, there's sort of that Farseer heir or not, it was the only value I could see in him just then. Paragraph break. I am disappointed in my son. Paragraph break. I examined that thought.
Yep.
And I think it's so interesting to have it almost
It's an
feels,
isolated line.
Yeah, it's an isolated line. It's its own paragraph. It feels sort of like that intrusive, like deep feeling that sometimes pops up, especially if you're pushing down other feelings. And this is sort of a topic that he has been pushing away and sidling away from, this idea that Dutiful is technically his son.
Right.
And how he's like really wrestling with this, right? Because can he say it's his son? It doesn't feel like he truly believes this is Verity's son, and he doesn't like thinking about the fact that genetically this is his son. This is his, like, the child he made in a way. And so here in this moment where this thought just comes through of like, I'm disappointed. It's so interesting because it feels like then on some level, Fitz has just always accepted that Dutiful is his son, the same way he accepts Nettle being his daughter. And I do also think it's good of him to acknowledge that he can't really be that upset or proud one way or the other because he had no hand in raising the child. Like, that's not, yeah, in a biological way, that's his son, but he's not the father of this child.
Right.
And so I don't know, but I also find it interesting that really what disappoints Fitz the most seems to be Dutiful's lack of mask to his emotions, right? Like, Fitz gets really annoyed with Dutiful for acting like his age. He doesn't like how whiny he is. He doesn't like how sulky he is. He doesn't like
he's
self-obsessed, juvenile. Yeah. And I mean, ultimately, from what I'm reading of what's happening, he's not any worse than Fitz was at that age, or currently is at his big age of like 30, whatever. And so I think it's really interesting to have Fitz, and I think it goes back to that self-loathing and the aspects of Dutiful that he sees as a mirror, being like, I can't believe you would be like me. Like, I didn't even have a hand in raising you and you're acting like me. It feels like self-loathing on a different level to me and my read of this book. And so, so this whole chapter, I'm just like, oh my gosh, Fitz, you need therapy and help. Why do you hate yourself so much? Like, be chill. Let your kid have like feelings. It's okay. Ugh. But yes, so Fitz stalks away and sort of starts taking care of the now. So he gets a fire started. He takes off his wet clothes and hangs them up to dry. He
looked for food at the same time as he looked for wood. Couldn't really find anything.
Really interestingly, he looks across the grassy tableland at the forest that backed it. The trees here were green of summer still, yet somehow it impressed me as an unfriendly and lifeless place. I decided there was no point in hiking across the meadow and hunting under the trees. I had no heart for a chase and a kill. The small creatures of the beach would suffice. It was a poor decision to make during the incoming tide. And I wanted to point that out specifically because we as rereaders know that right now they're on Other Island.
Yes.
This is Other Island that Fitz and Dutiful have landed on. And so this would be the forest to get out of Other Island through the cove.
Yeah.
And I find that part really interesting because
that's exactly kind of the same feeling that Kennet and Genghis encountered as well.
Yeah.
Walking away, just like, oh, it's foreboding. Don't go off the path here.
Don't get lost. I guess technically whenever they're leaving the island is when they start feeling like they should go explore the forest or something.
Right, because
Yeah, but when Fitz is just trying to hunt. But I found that really interesting because we know last trilogy with the Vestrits, Kennet, when Kennet was last on this island, Wintro fought off, or Kennet and Wintro and the serpent fought off all of
Edda,
and Edda
fought off the others.
They
went around the headlands to another side away from the beach. But yes.
Yeah, but there was a big fight where the serpent ended up eating and killing a lot of the others. And so I was under the impression, and maybe mistakenly so, that the others are gone.
No, they do encounter Fitz and Dutiful encounter them, and that's when they escape, basically. And that's how we know it's Other Island. The first time through is when we get these descriptions.
Okay.
So not all of them are gone, no.
Okay. Thank you for the reminder, because I'm like, didn't they all die?
No, they're still around.
Okay. But I was going to say, I think it's really interesting that their little magic is still working without them there. But I guess they are still there. I am so curious to know about the others. Do they have homes and villages? Like, are they living in ruins of old Elderling City? I have so many questions we'll never get the answers to. But yeah, so as a reminder and spoiler, this is Other Island. And so I think that's a really cool detail to pick up as a reread of like, oh, that's a foreboding forest. Even though it would be smarter to go hunt in there, I'm not going to. I'll stay away from it.
And so he just has the fire going and is trying to dry his clothes. An important note in here is that he says, I had to be resigned that my next opportunity to return to my friends was nearly a full day away. That's kind of when he determines that the next low tide will be to search for the skill pillar. So, as you mentioned, he takes off his boots and his shirt, and he's sitting by the fire, hugging himself against the chill of the fading day. He quests out again for Night Eyes. There's no response. It meant nothing, I told myself. If he and the fool had managed to escape, then he would not reach out toward me for fear of being detected by the piebalds. It might mean only that he was choosing to be silent, or it might mean he was dead. I wrapped my own arms around myself and held tight. I must not think such thoughts of grief would tear me apart. The fool had asked me to keep Prince Dutiful alive. I'd do that. And the piebalds would not dare to kill my friends. They would want to know what had become of the prince, how he could have vanished before their eyes. What would they do to the fool to wring answers from him? Don't think such things. Reluctantly, I rose to seek out the prince. So, as you mentioned before, he's kind of going back and forth, fighting these intruding thoughts about what could have happened.
Right.
And just repeating like, nope, don't dwell on it. Don't dwell on it. Not the important part right now.
He also keeps going back and forth between this feeling of, I hate the prince, I think this is the dumbest thing I've ever done, I do not care whether he lives or dies, and I have a duty to protect him, I need to make sure Dutiful is okay and keep him safe and get him back safely. And I just really enjoy that sort of war that he's having within himself, that he is really struggling with this. He is, because he doesn't like being part of the Farseer. I really feel like this
Right.
is the like push away from being a Farseer, doing the duty of a Farseer, and also knowing what the right thing to do is, and being a good person who does ultimately want to help Dutiful because he's family and he matters to those that matter to him.
I also think that it could be in relation to his friends, right? Him wanting to protect Dutiful, fulfilling the last wishes of the fool, protecting his daughter as well.
Right.
But, and protecting Night Eyes' wishes, because if he protects Dutiful, then Nettle stays alive and he can talk to Nettle about Night Eyes, the whole thing there. And him being mad and upset with Dutiful, I see as a reflection of, this is my grief and you are what I get out of this. And it is awful because you are a whiny, juvenile, self-obsessed kid. And we've talked about reasons for him thinking that too. So as he mentions before in this chapter, it's a very poor bargain that he thinks he has made, but his duty, and in this view of it, him fulfilling the last wishes of his friend is very important.
Right.
So he goes to seeking Dutiful now. He's like, okay, gotta take care of Dutiful, I guess. I'll get him to the fire. He goes back over. Dutiful has not moved. Prince Dutiful, he's not moving at all. Kind of toes him a bit. Prince Dutiful does not move. Dutiful, I leaned around him to look into his face. He wasn't there. His expression was slack, his eyes dull. His mouth hung slightly ajar. I groped toward our tenuous skill bond. It was like tugging at a broken fishing line. There was no resistance, no sense that anyone had ever been at the other side of that bond. I really liked that analogy. As someone who has been fishing many a time, it is a very weird feeling when you have to like snap your line, or if it gets bitten off by a fish and you're just kind of reeling in nothing. You can like barely tell a line is there. I don't know. It's a good analogy, I think.
Okay. I don't fish, so
yeah.
I'll take your word for it.
A terrible echo of a long ago lesson came to me. If you give in to the skill, if you do not hold firm against its attraction, then the skill can tatter you away and you will become as a great drooling babe, seeing nothing, hearing nothing. The hair stood up on the back of my neck. I shook the prince, and his head just lolled and nodded on his neck. Damn me, I roared to the sky. I should have foreseen he would try to reach the cat. I should have known this could happen. So Fitz forces himself to calmness, stoops, carries him, drags him as much as he can over to the fire, chafing his body, gets the wet shirt off of Dutiful, puts Fitz's now warmed shirt onto Dutiful, trying to keep him and his body warm and alive.
Right. I do want to ask, do you think that Dutiful did this because he was reaching for the cat, or do you think he was trying to recreate the feeling he just felt in the skill, not understanding how dangerous that was?
I don't know if it matters, because we know with the reaching out to the cat, he reaches with the skill as well. So I feel like the end result, whether it was just curiosity or the cat, he would have reached, like, been swept away immediately.
Yeah. Sorry, it just the way you said that was like curiosity killed the cat.
That's fair. I don't know. Did you have an idea? Do you think it's Fitz being like, I don't know, taking a cynical attitude towards the prince, or?
I mean, a little bit that. I do feel as though it makes sense that he would try to reach to his cat. And because of the teaching of the piebald, do such a danger, like leave his body completely behind without second thought.
Yeah.
But I also don't know if it was about the cat in this moment. I think he was specifically interested in knowing more about the skill. We know it's a euphoric feeling. It feels really good to use the skill. And he was trying to ask questions about it with Fitz before this happened.
Yeah.
So I feel it's more of him trying to figure out if he could recreate, even if it was with the intent of, if I can figure out what he did with the skill, I can get back to my cat. I just don't know if it was a reaching for the cat, but I think the way he was trained to use the wit has had a serious negative effect on how he goes about using this skill here.
Yeah.
So unclear. I just was wondering if you had any thoughts on the matter.
So while Fitz is kind of chafing the prince's body and trying to keep him warm, he says that he spoke to Dutiful the whole time, rebuking him and taunting him at first, but before long I was pleading with him. He made no response at all. It was not that his breathing labored or that his heart beat more slowly, but more that my wit's sense of his presence was fading. Exactly as if he were traveling away from me. He kind of feels that Dutiful is slipping away. And so finally, Fitz sits down next to him. I pulled him back against me, his back to my chest, and put my arms around him in a vain effort to warm him. Dutiful, I said by his ear. Come back, boy. Come back. You've a throne to inherit, and a kingdom to rule. You can't go like this. Come back, lad. It can't all have been for nothing. Not the fool and Night Eyes both spent for nothing. What will I say to Kettrican? What will Chade say to me? Gods, what would Verity say to me now? It was not so much what Verity would have said to me as what Verity would have done for me. I held his son close to me and then placed my face next to his beardless cheek. I took a deep breath and dropped all my walls. I closed my eyes and slipped into the skill in search of him. I nearly lost myself.
So this is really sad to read because we have Fitz finally able to be kind to Dutiful, and it's
Right.
because he thinks that Dutiful is lost. And it is this horrible fear, and I think it really does remind us as readers how dangerous the skill really is. Not that we're not constantly reminded of that, but I think truly we haven't gotten to see up close what happens to a person who lets go in the skill for no reason. Like, this wasn't done to Dutiful by somebody
Right.
through the skill. This isn't something that he did on purpose necessarily. It's just naivety
Mm-hmm.
that has led him to this. And so it's really interesting to see the consequence of that and how really dangerous. Fitz is always talking about how dangerous it is, but sometimes it's easy to ignore that because of who taught him. And
Right.
sort of like Galen isn't super reliable. He lied about a lot of things. Like, how do we know for certain how dangerous this is until we're met with these instances of bad things happening so quickly and going
Right.
so wrong
Yeah.
because people are untrained or not knowing what they're doing or just opening themselves up to skill in a way that is dangerous. And
Mhm.
so then having this moment where Fitz is really face to face with potentially losing Dutiful
Yeah.
after all of that.
a moment that pretty much kind of convinces him that Dutiful does need a better teacher in the
Yes.
skill,
Yeah.
and dives into the skill next to him and nearly loses it himself.
Yeah. Because again, he's not trained. He is trained more than anyone else alive,
Right.
but he isn't really.
He's
even
not a
just
journeyman.
No.
Or maybe like he's granted that later, but like he's
Right.
barely a journeyman. You
Yeah.
know?
It's pretty tough in this moment. And I think it's really interesting because Fitz specifically says, there have been times when I could scarcely reach the flow of skill. And in other times and places, I've experienced skill as a flowing river of power, incredibly swift and powerful. That is really interesting that it's specified times and places.
Yeah.
Because I think it really goes back to skill is sort of living in a way. And this is a magic island. We know that. It's very close to Elderling ruins. It's
It has
got
the
magic
black
beings.
sand for cocooning grounds.
Yeah. And so to see that that does have an effect on Fitz, just like when he was in the Rain Wilds and was having those crazy skill dreams, question mark.
Yeah,
It's,
on the cursed shore.
yeah, I think it's so interesting to know that there are places in this world that just inherently have so much skill in the spot that you just dive in deeper than you mean to.
Right,
Which,
because there's so much skill present there already,
Yeah.
physically.
yeah. And so I think, too, that could be part of this problem with Dutiful, where even if he wasn't trying to fully open himself up because of the place that they're in, it just was inherently way more dangerous than any other place he could have tried.
Yeah. As a boy, I had nearly lost myself in that river, sustained and rescued only by Verity's intervention. I had grown in strength and control since then, or so I had thought. This sensation was like diving into a racing current of skill. Never before had I felt it so strong and seductive. In my present frame of mind, it seemed to offer the complete and perfect answer to me. Just let go. Stop being this person Fitz trapped in a battle-scarred body. Stop bleeding sorrow for the death of my closest friends. Just let go. The skill offered me existence without thought. It was not the suicide's temptation to die and make the world stop for him. This was far more enticing. Change the shape of your being and leave all those considerations behind. Merge. If I had had only myself to think of, I know I would have yielded to it. But the fool had charged me with seeing that he did not die in vain, and my wolf had bade me live and tell Nettle of him. Ketterkin had asked me to bring her son back to her. Chade was depending on me. And Hap. So I found myself in that seething current of streaming sensations, and I fought to remain who I was. I don't know how long it took me to do that. Again, we're reminded that time really has no meaning in the skill current, so he takes however long it takes to gather himself and make himself solid before he starts reaching out and trying to search anywhere for Dutiful.
And importantly, he is making himself solid by thinking of what he means to other people, what he has given of himself to others.
Yeah.
It's not about who he is at the heart of it. It's about how others need him and what they need of him. And that is what's keeping him going in this moment, which I think is important to think on, especially as later he does give in to just letting go of everything. And so it really shows how tenuous that sort of, he doesn't have that sense of self. He doesn't have a sense of self built on who he is at his core.
Right.
It's who others think of him as in their need.
It's not that mastery of self that was it Hailfire at the beginning?
Yes. So after he does find himself, he then starts trying to find Dutiful. He's sifting through sand. He explains it as though
thinking it would be easy because he found Dutiful right away by touching him the last time.
Yeah, and he explains he's sort of sifting through the skill, trying to find a dust of a footprint of what might be Dutiful, of how he knows Dutiful. And so he's trying so hard. He's going through, he's combing through the skill. And as he's doing that, he's opening up himself up more to the skill to try to get a wider reach and try to sort of sift through. And he has just these little bits of what he thinks Dutiful is. And that's also really important because he doesn't know Dutiful well either.
Yeah.
This isn't like when Verity helped Fitz because Verity knew Fitz well.
Right.
This is a kid that he has known for 2 days, maybe.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I guess he knew of him for about a week now.
And they do have a skill connection, because they've skilled to each other in dreams.
Right.
But still, it's not much.
It's not a lot, and it's not helping, and it is hard, and he is trying, but Dutiful does not want to be put together.
He says, I gathered what I could of him, but it was no more Prince Dutiful than the scent of a flower is the flower. Nevertheless, I took to myself the bits that I recognized and held them fiercely. It was becoming more difficult for me to recall what exactly was the essence of the prince. I had never known him well, and the body that my body held was rapidly losing its connection to him. So, yeah, Prince Dutiful's body is also dying at this point. And that connection of being a living person was also something that Fitz could grasp. And like, this is part of who Dutiful is. But
Mm-hmm.
as time wears on, that's losing meaning as well. So it's even harder for him to just hold on to what pieces he has already.
Right. And in that desperation, like I said, he sort of opens himself wider up to the skill.
Mm-hmm.
In an effort to find the boy, I engaged completely with the skill. I did not surrender myself, but I stepped free of all the safety holds that always before I had clung to. It was an eerie feeling. I was a kite cut free and flying, a tiny boat with no hand on the tiller. I had not lost my sense of self, but I had given up the absolute certainty that I could find my way back to my body. Yet it put me no closer to finding Dutiful. It only made me more aware of the vastness that surrounded me and the hopelessness of my task. And it's hard for him to continue on.
Yeah, because he says all the while the skill's whispering promises to him. Basically, this is the perfect end for you, Fitz. Just let go.
If I gave in, I knew it would become all warmth and comfort and belonging. If I surrendered to it, I would subside into peaceful existence without individual awareness. What would be so terrible about that? Night Eyes and the Fool were gone. I'd failed my mission to bring Dutiful back to Kettricken. Molly did not wait for me. She had a life and a love. Hap, I told myself, trying to stir some sense of responsibility. What about Hap? But I knew that Chade would see to Hap's needs, at first out of sense of duty to me, but before long, for the sake of the boy himself. But Nettle, what of Nettle? What of Nettle? The answer was terrible. I had already failed her. I knew I could not recover Dutiful, and without him, she was doomed. Did I wish to return and witness that? Could I be aware of it and stay sane? Then a worse thought came to me. In this timeless place, it had all already happened. Even now, she had perished. And that is what decided it for him.
Yeah. So that, like, as you were saying before, he centered himself with the needs of the people around him. Not even just like the love of who he is or anything,
Yeah.
but the responsibilities that he had. And after so long of searching, he's like, well, all of these responsibilities have counters.
Yeah.
I've already failed. None of it is meaningful. So might as well just stop.
Yeah, there's no point. It doesn't matter. Everybody who matters is either dead or taken care of.
Yep.
And there's nothing he can do about it. And it's because he didn't center himself. This isn't a core of who he is. It is what was needed in the now. And the now has changed as far as he can tell.
I let go of the bits of Dutiful, and they streamed away from me. How to describe that? As if I stood on a sunny hillside and released a rainbow I had imprisoned in my hand. As he flowed away, I realized that those traces of him had become entangled with my own essence. My being flowed with his. It didn't matter. Fitz chivalry farseer ribboned away from me, the thread of myself snagged and now unraveling in the streaming skill. Once I had put memories into a stone dragon. I had gratefully thrust away pain and hopeless love and a dozen other experiences. I had given away that part of my life so that the dragon would have enough essence to come to life. This felt different. Imagine bleeding that feels pleasurable and yet is still just as deadly. I passively witnessed the draining. No, stop that. Warm, feminine amusement in the voice that filled my mind. I was helpless to prevent it as she wound the thread of my being around me, as if she were gathering yarn back into a skein. I had forgotten how passionately dramatic humans can be at their silliest. No wonder we enjoyed you so. Such ardent little pets as you were. Who? I could refine the thought no more than that. Her presence left me limp with happiness. And this is yours too, I suppose. No, wait. This is a different one. Two of you here, at once, and coming all apart. Are you lost, then? Lost. I repeated the thought to her, unable to frame any concept of my own. I was a dandled infant, adored for my mere presence, and it left me helpless with delight. Her love transfused me with warmth. It was something I had never even been able to imagine before. I was loved enough and valued enough, and I needed nothing more than what I presently had. This enough was more bountiful than plenty, more rich than a king's gleaming hoard. Never in my life had I experienced this sensation. Back you go. Be more careful next time. Most of the others would not even notice that they had attracted you. Like plucking a burr off herself, I thought with dim dismay. While she held me, I was too giddy with pleasure to oppose her, even though I knew she was about to do the unthinkable. Wait, I managed, but the thought was weightless and she gave me no heed. For less than a blink, I was aware of Dutiful close beside me. Then I was back in the horrid confines of my miserable little body. So let's unpack some of that.
Yeah.
First, before we get to the greater mystery of things, let's talk about Fitz's incredibly sad emotional awareness in this. So the reality is he is giving up, right? He's like, I'm joining everything. Nothing else matters. The being comes in and is like, oh, you're so silly and melodramatic. It's cute. All right, let's put you all together. And Fitz is like, oh my gosh, this being, this motherly feminine voice loves me for what I currently am. I have never felt that before in my life.
Yeah.
How, like, in the middle of this great mystery that, like, readers will be like, oh my gosh, what is happening? Like, who is this?
Yeah.
Is this incredible and awful realization that Fitz, like, this is the heart of Fitz. Yeah. This is Fitz's realization of, like, I have never been truly loved, because he doesn't accept that himself. Right? He has been truly loved by other people. He just cannot accept it himself. And this is the first time when you have that full connection of, you can feel that skill to skill.
Right.
And no boundaries at all. It's just being like, oh, okay, this person does love me. Wow, that's what this feels like.
Yeah, it's incredibly sad. It does make me wonder if it's the lack of boundaries that he's confusing with love, of like this being is fully connected to Fitz in a way that he can't otherwise connect with anyone else, because this is skill and a skill being ? And he also is able to feel the joy and the love and the warmth at his presence in this moment, and knows that he enjoys that. And in his day-to-day life, he can't just, no boundaries, open himself up to the feelings of others.
Right.
And know for a fact that they, without any doubt, love him. Because I think that's the heart of relationships, right? You never know. You can never, ever know for 100% certainty that the people that you love and care about feel the exact same way back. Yeah. Because we don't have a way to feel that. I mean, you just have to trust that they do. And Fitz has zero trust because he doesn't think he is worthy of that love.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not even about what others are doing or what they could do better. It's just something he inherently can't accept. And so in this moment, when there are no boundaries, which also not a great way to express love all the time, but there are no boundaries here. And so then he is able to feel that because his own boundaries are also gone.
Right.
And I don't know. It's just really, really heartbreaking and sad. Because I was thinking, well, what about Night Eyes? I thought he knows that Night Eyes cares about him, but Night Eyes has boundaries. Night Eyes has parts of himself that he keeps separate from Fitz. And
which is healthy and good.
Yes, which is how it should be. I'm not trying, I don't want to, just like as an aside, as I'm saying this, I don't want this to come across as like, nobody should have any boundaries. No, it is healthy and normal and good to have parts of yourself that are just for you.
No, this is a Fitz problem. Like this is entirely a Fitz thing.
Fitz not realizing that. Fitz feeling like that means that inherently he is not worthy of knowing that part of you, which is not how that works. I don't know. So that was just a thought I had when reading this. But also, I want to know everything. Who is this being? What does she mean there are others? What does she mean that they are attracting the skill users to them? She is not alive. She says in past tense, no wonder we enjoyed you so, about humans being so entertaining. She's not currently alive and she knows it. Like, or at least not alive in the sense that whatever, that beings are now. Is this like where the memories go for the cocoons? Like, what is this? How are they there?
There are quite a few theories out there. And I know one of them, that these are like the stone dragon entities,
Right.
but I am going to kind of refute that right away. I agree with other people that stone dragon people are trapped outside of the skill stream.
Yeah.
They are not part of it.
I would agree with that
specifically. Even though Fitz kind of encounters Verity later and he is in a dragon and stuff, like, I think in general these beings are not the stone dragons. However, I do believe that the stone dragons were also mimicking kind of these beings, and it's like from the language implied to be dragons, right?
Right.
But not just dragons, because they're tempered by a lot of things, and people perceive them differently. Fitz has a warm feminine voice in his head that is very motherly and caring and gives love. And Dutiful, later on, I believe, not in this one, mentions that it was fatherly and like more masculine.
It's this chapter.
I'll talk to you about that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll get there when we get there. So I think that these are maybe originally, my theory, I haven't like fully fleshed it out, originally like dragon entities of some sort who are not reborn into things and pass into the skill stream somehow, and then collect these wayward people who stream into it, these threads of consciousness that kind of gather around these center nuclei, I guess.
Sure.
And they have kind of, as Fitz say, a merge. It's kind of like almost a hive mind entity where they all are one consciousness now and can present those different aspects because they're thousands upon thousands, maybe millions of entities in general that have attracted to this one thing. And because it's such a dense being with a bunch of, comforting thoughts coming to you, it would attract skill users.
Yeah.
Like, that is the pull that people are feeling, is that intense center of skill. That is what kind of the skill is just these life forces being like, hey, come join us.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I've seen a couple theories out there on the internet that are like fully fleshed out of what they think the magic system and the skill is. Like, the skill is kind of another, think of like the ethereal plane. It's like another plane of existence that's on top of ours at all time, or the six judges at all time, and you can access it stronger in some places.
Right.
So there are theories out there for things, but that's my thought on this in general.
I guess I just find it so interesting because at first I was like, well, obviously this is a dragon of some sort. But then I was thinking about it more.
Unlike any dragon.
Yeah, it's too kind. It's too kind to be a dragon. This being seems to genuinely care about humans. Like, talks fondly of humans. And I'm not saying that no dragon has ever done that in this series. They do sometimes. Dragon? But not like unprompted for no reason. I came across a human and I'm like, oh, I remember the humans.
Oh, little pets.
Yeah, like, no, this being is obsessed. Is like, oh my gosh, I forgot how funny you guys are. No, don't unravel. Let me put you back together. You're great.
You're so silly.
You're so silly. But it does have that sort of aspect of the glamour, right? Of Fitz being enthralled by the presence, of wanting more, of just like really loving this being.
And some of the language, specifically the little pets.
Yes. But then, is this a drag? This is Saw. This is Saw. Saw is real. I'm a convert. Yeah. Saw has many faces. That's why it's a mother to Fitz and a father to Dutiful. They are all seeing, all knowing. They know everything. They're one with the skill. Praise be Saw.
That's kind of also like another theory. I don't remember if I saw this on the internet or if this was in the back of my head somewhere. At this point, it's been too long since I started looking at these books that I don't know anymore. But that's another thing that I've thought of, is that the original kind of formation of some of these gods were people that were skill users.
Yeah.
That's what the priests see when they go into the skill. It's just like sometimes they encounter this being and it's like, oh, but each of them come out describing something different. It's like, oh, this god has many faces and presents to us what we need.
Yeah.
Or like sailors out there, maybe they all had daddy issues, and they sometimes encounter this
angry dad.
This angry dad is like, no, get back on the ship. Oh, you were weak. I guess you fell off.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, that's L, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like sometimes that this could be where the formation of the gods came from, but also, as cool as that is, I feel like it doesn't really fit with the formation of nations and like a mass religion, because skill use seems very, very limited, especially in the time of the Elderlings.
Right.
So I don't know. I just think it's kind of cool anyways.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm so sad that we don't really get to see more about this. And this is why also whenever later the dragon says that Fitz has been claimed by another dragon, people are like, oh, it's Verity. And there's a lot of strong evidence to point to Verity as dragon being the dragon that has claimed Fitz.
Yeah.
But why can't it also be this being? Why is this not the dragon that claimed Fitz? Like, I don't know. But also the fact that there's more of them. It's the reference to there being the others might not have noticed they drew you in that is driving me crazy. Because what do you mean you beings are drawing skill users in? And what do you mean not everyone's aware that they're doing it? Like, what? Are these the original whites? Like, what is happening? I'm so upset. I need to know, and I never will. And that makes me very sad.
Yeah,
so.
I think of them with my original theory that I kind of discussed here, with them being like giant entities in the skill stream, kind of collecting other things. I think of, the classic interpretations of space-time, the fabric out there. On a bed, put like 4 or 5 large bowling balls that are spaced out. They have divots towards them. If you enter the skill stream, which is the bed, you're going to roll towards one of them. You know, that's kind of how I feel like the attraction is.
Okay.
They're just so massive that they have their own gravity, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, either way, the being flings Fitz back into his poor, pitiful body.
Oh, and he has the whole poor, pitiful me. My body is awful and never worked right.
It's so
I mean, it's really
Fitz.
sad.
It's really, really sad. It's so Fitz, though. Yeah. It's like anytime Fitz spends even a fraction of a second away from his body, he comes back and is like, I hate this stupid prison.
It's like when he went into Night Eyes' body is healing him, like, oh my gosh, Night Eyes almost died. Let me go back to my body. Oh, this sucks.
Yes, it's like every time Fitz hates his body, relatable. But like, it's so interesting to me because it's every time he leaves his physical confines that he comes back and is like, I hate this. This is like too little, too confined. And I think it really does speak to how big the skill is, right?
Yeah.
Like when you are connected to everything, even Wintro has this problem whenever he had his little moments of connecting to Saw, as he called it, which we all thought was more of like a skill thing, where he comes back to himself and he just feels so small and grubby because he can't naturally see all of the wonder that was around him without the skill. And so, yeah, we have this moment of Fitz sort of having to readjust to life in not only his normal old achy body, but an old achy body that has been traveling for days on very little food with very little sleep and has been crouching in a very uncomfortable position, I'm sure, in the cold for hours, presumably.
After his kind of explanation that he hates his body, he says, and worst of all, it did not have enough of anything. It was riddled with wants and great gaping needs. And here I had never had. I would never have enough love or regard, or I flung myself out of it again. All that happened was that my body gave a great twitch and fell over on the sand. And he says the more he struggles, the more he sinks into the limbs and like becomes part of himself again into his body.
Which I believe in my mind is because it is sort of more acknowledging that that is his body and acknowledging what's there as his own. It's sort of solidifying, oh yeah, this is me. Because his soul knows that's him and just needs to be reminded. And so is then like anchoring back into the self. And he's too weak with all that skill use to be able to really use the skill enough to get back out, I believe.
Thirsty, hungry, bruised, and cut, unloved.
It's so sad. There will never be enough love or regard in this body is so sad. Unloved being one of the things that he uses to describe himself. It's horribly sad. It's
Yeah.
horribly, horribly sad. And I don't know if this is made worse because he believes that his wit partner and the person he trusts most are dead.
Definitely
And so,
made worse.
yeah, like it's like, oh, well, I had that a little bit at one point, but now I never will again.
Yeah.
Or if this is sort of like inherently what he believes. I think a little bit of both is true. But it makes me so sad for him because he isn't unloved, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't feel unloved.
Right. So he slowly sits up, takes stock of what's happened around him. He says the fire has pretty much gone out and realizes that he's been away from his body for a very long time. I stood perfectly still, mourning the fool in Night Eyes, but devastated even beyond those losses by my abandonment by whatever she had been. It was not like waking from a dream, rather it was the opposite. In her there had been truth and immediacy and the simplicity of being. Plunged back into the world, I sensed it as a tangling web of distractions and annoyances, illusions and tricks. A bunch of discomforts kind of pluck at him, but larger loomed the problem of Prince Dutiful and how we would get back to Buck and what had become of Night Eyes and the Fool. Yet even those things now seemed but diversions, danced before my eyes to keep my attention from the immense reality beyond them. All of this existence was composed of trivial pains and searing agonies, and each of them was yet another mask between me and the face of the eternal. So he's sitting here being like, I have to deal with these things, but all of this, life is an annoyance, and I just want to go back to the skill stream and die, basically.
Yeah.
Well, not die, because he said it's not like that. I want to forget all of my worries ever happened and still exist with that love, and that's it.
Yeah.
So as he's thinking all these things, eventually he's like, okay, my body is still shivering. I'm cold. I still need to see to the immediacy of my problems. I need to deal with all of this. Let's get the fire going again.
Right. And he can tell that the tide is low tide based off the smell of the air, the unmistakable smell of low tide.
Bared kelp and shellfish.
It was in the air. And
So just remember that with that descriptor, when they were settling down and he got the fire started, he said it was nearly a full day away. So they have spent nearly a full day in the skill stream at this point.
I don't think that's true because
No?
Fitz, I'll have to go back now. I believe he said he thinks the low tide will happen later tonight but it'll be too dark to see anything. So the next low tide will probably be at some time during the day. It'll probably be a full day before they can leave.
Gotcha.
So the way I was reading it is that like it's going to take hours before it's low tide. And by then it'll be so dark. I don't even know where we were spit out. We won't be able to see it.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah. So I don't think it's been a full day. I think it's only been several hours, probably like 8 hours, maybe 10. I don't know how long it takes for tides
a long time
to work. But yeah, so it has been a long time, just not a full day.
Okay. So the prince is laying on his back, and in the fickle light of my dying fire, I saw only black cavities where his eyes should be. Then he spoke. I had a dream. There was wonder and uncertainty in his voice. How nice. It was a neutral sneer. I was incredibly relieved that he was back in his body and could speak. To an equal degree, I hated that I was trapped inside my own body and had to listen to him. Which I think is a really funny line. He seemed immune to my nastiness. The edges of his voice were soft. I've never had a dream like that. I could feel everything. I dreamed my father held me together and told me that I was going to be fine. That was all. But the strangest part was, that was enough. Dutiful smiled up at me. It was a luminous smile, wise and young. It made him look like Ketrican. I have to find more firewood, I said at last, and turned away. So this is what I wanted to talk about.
Mhm.
And I don't remember specifically, because it's been a while since I've read these books, if they mention again the being,
Right.
if like the motherly / fatherly figure kind of turns up.
Mhm.
This mention here, without knowing that in the future,
Yeah.
has a couple explanations.
Mhm.
One, it could be that he interpreted the being that Fitz also encountered as a father figure or a father stand-in, or was just fatherly in general. However, he says, I dreamed my father held me and said it was going to be all right, which also makes me think that he could be remembering Fitz holding him and saying, like, come back.
Yeah. I mean,
That's why I wanted to like not say
yeah.
it right out that he
Okay.
had the same experience.
Yeah, that's fair. I feel like there is, I mean, again, I've also not read this in a while. I feel like there's another talk about the being they encounter.
Right. Yeah.
But in this moment, I would also agree. I think this is about Fitz.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the other being is clearly the one that put Dutiful back together too, because she noticed that there
Yes.
were two.
Yeah.
And so was able to separate them and put them back in their own bodies and send them on their way. But Fitz was for hours physically and in the skill holding Dutiful,
Mm-hmm.
who is his son, who we know through the magic they have similar sense, for lack of better word. The residue of their magic is family.
Right.
And so at that level, why wouldn't Dutiful know? You know everything in the
Mhm.
skill. Why wouldn't you know this is my father holding on to me?
And that sense of completeness, that sense of, him just saying, holding me and saying it was going to be all right was enough. That could come from just the skill, or it could be
Right.
conflating the being and that love that Fitz felt
Yes.
with that sense of Fitz holding him or anything like that. So it could be kind of a combination of these things too.
Mhm.
But that's what I want you guys to let us know. Like,
Yes.
what are your theories on this being? First of all, that's the
Yeah.
big one, right?
Number one, first and foremost.
Two, what is Dutiful feeling here? Like, what did he actually experience? Because we don't get to know.
No.
We get a little hint. Like, I believe I'm on the same train as you here, Emma, that I think that there is another kind of brief discussion, maybe in the next chapter with them before they head back through the pillar of like, there was a being.
I feel like maybe it's later when Fitz is the skill teacher
Okay.
that they get in a mini argument about like, no, it was a mom, no, it was a dad,
Okay.
like
That would make sense too.
I feel like that's how I remember the conversation
Okay.
going.
So
Could be wrong.
So yeah, we think there's another conversation specifically about that. But is this of Dutiful? This is why, like, the specific language of I felt my father was holding me. It was not a
Father figure.
Yes.
It wasn't. Yeah.
I felt like a man was holding me and told me it would be all right, and he was familiar or something like
Yeah.
that. It was my father was holding me. So
Right.
want to hear from you guys.
Yeah, well,
let us
because
know.
I mean, if you think about it, Fitz didn't say my mother was holding me. It was like
Right.
a maternal
Yeah.
being.
Mhm.
So, yeah. I also think, though, that if we're going to go down the route of this is sort of Fitz holding Dutiful together and helping in this way is what he is talking about. It is so heartbreaking that in this moment, all he wants is his dad to be there to tell him it's going to be okay.
I know.
Like, it just really speaks to how young he is. I'm like
Yeah.
going to cry thinking about it because it's just heartbreaking to me that this poor young boy is so lost. He's been put on this pedestal as the king to be, as the sacrifice. And
Mhm.
he has been, I mean, not unloved for sure, but I think like Fitz, very lonely.
I was going to
And
say, like,
yeah.
are you describing Fitz here too?
Yeah, it's like so heartbreaking that they both have that sort of overwhelming feeling of just needing love. They need somebody to be there to love them fully and not have that barrier of you're the prince, you're the bastard, you're whatever name and title is on top of you at this moment in time. It's like, you're just my kid and I love you.
Mhm.
And I, like, as sad as that is, I can definitely see Ketcherkin not being a mom like that. That she can't, because that's part of the sacrifice, is that you are a sacrifice first and foremost, and then my child. And I just feel like that would be a cultural thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Very, very sad if true.
Okay, so Fitz walks away. He has to walk away from the smiling prince who looks like Kettrikin. And he walks out into the night looking for more firewood. But he looks up at the stars and his stomach drops because he's like, oh my gosh, we are so far south of the Six Duchies at this point. We have a long journey ahead of us. I didn't know skill pillars were like that powerful.
Yeah, well, because previously skill pillars had only been able to transport him someplace that was a few days away.
Right.
And this is a long way. Like, they're definitely not making the deadline
Yeah.
far enough away. And they're very far south of the duchies, is what he can tell.
So he is walking along the beach, the treasure beach of Other Island, and he says he's purposely not thinking of anything. And he doesn't know how far he walked before he steps on it. It shifted in the wet sand beneath my foot, and for an instant I thought I had stepped on a knife blade lying flat on the sand. In the darkness, I stooped and located it by touch. So he picks it up. He says it's about the length of the blade of a butcher's knife, somewhat shaped the same. It was hard and cold, stone or metal, could not tell which, but it was not a knife. And he describes a feather in here. He doesn't know what it is exactly yet, but he keeps it. It was familiar in an eerie way, he says, as if I picked up something that had been mine a long time ago. The puzzle of the object was a welcome distraction from my own thoughts. I held it in my hand as I continued down the beach. I hadn't gone a dozen steps before I stepped on another one. I picked it up. By touch, I compared the two. They were not quite identical, one being slightly longer. I held them, weighing them in my hands. When I stepped on the third one, I was almost expecting it. I lifted it from the sand and wiped the wet grit from it. Then I stood still where I was. I had a strange sense of something waiting for me. It hovered, unable to take shape without my volition. I had the strangest sensation of standing on the edge of a cliff. One more step, and I would either plummet to my death or discover I could fly. I stepped back from it. I turned around and walked back toward the dying campfire on the beach. And as he watches, Dutiful Silhouette is dumping some wood. So he's like, okay, good. The boy can do that at least.
Yeah. What do you think he's standing on the edge of? Is this a literal edge? Is this a metaphorical edge?
I think it's a metaphorical edge, but I'm not exactly sure of what. My thought is that he would continue to find more feathers and like specific things that would maybe freak him out. But I don't know what it would be.
I'm genuinely so upset that he only gets 4 feathers. No,
There's
3. Sorry, he only gets 3 feathers. I don't know how many spots there were, but it feels like more than 3.
I thought they were either 5 or 7, and I'm pretty sure he ends up with all of them. I just don't remember how.
Well, I guess we'll find out
We'll
next
find
chapter.
out.
But I'm like, why are you stopping? A magic beach is giving you magic things. But I'm also so nosy. I would just continue. I'd be like, okay, I need to know. This is a perfect distraction. What else is there? What am I going to find next? And then the second I get the weird one is when I stop. That's so far, it's this mystery long flat thing. We're good. I'm going to keep going until it's not that anymore. But I do also wonder if this is somehow connected to the knowing that, you know, because this is part of the rooster crown feathers. It's just that overwhelming overlap of time, like in that moment that he shared with the fool in the first trilogy. Or is there an other standing nearby that like is gonna read the fortune for him?
Oh yeah,
he's feeling the draw to the other. I don't know.
I feel like if the others were there, they would already come for them, right? You know, they would already kind of like go to their fire.
Well, also, if they did, they would have just saw 2 dudes like not in their minds hugging it out. So like maybe they're like, oh, we're good. We don't need to,
don't need to worry
they're
about these
taken
guys.
care of. Some magic took them. It's fine.
Yeah, maybe.
That would be a really weird sight. Not gonna lie.
True. Yeah, also let us know what you think about this too.
Yeah.
So he walks back to the dying fire, and well, that's slowly being built up by Dutiful, at least, because at least the boy can do that. He says, it was hard to go back to the circle of light. I didn't want to face him, didn't want his questions or his accusations. I did not want to pick up the reins of my life. But by the time I reached the fire, Dutiful was stretched out beside it, feigning sleep. He wore his own shirt, and mine had been draped on the stakes to warm and dry. I put it on silently. As I tugged up the collar, my fingers encountered Jinnah's charm. Ah, well, that explained his smiles and kindly words. I lay down on my side by the fire. Before I closed my eyes, I examined the objects I had found. They were feathers. Of stone or metal, I still could not say. In the fire's deceptive light, they were a dark gray. I instantly knew where they belonged. I doubted they would ever be there. He goes to sleep.
So this is wizardwood, right? That's
It is.
why it's the dark gray.
Yep.
It's really interesting to hear it be described sort of metallic in the weight and feel of it.
I think that's how it's always been described. Yeah.
But I guess we don't really often get small pieces of wizardwood.
Right.
know?
I think we got some of this description in Ship of Magic, but ever like beyond that, it was like, oh, this is the feel of wizardwood,
Yeah.
The unmistakable feel of
yeah.
wizardwood
Well, because
beneath my hands.
Kenneth's charm is never described as feeling like metal, right?
I don't think
mean,
so, but I don't think
maybe-
people describe the charm maybe in Ship of Magic when he first gets it.
Yeah.
But Etta, when she gets it, is just talking about his likeness, right?
Yeah. Well, I was thinking that maybe the wizardwood charm, that's the birth control belly button
Oh,
ring.
right. Yeah.
Belly ring. I feel like maybe that it Brashen touches it on Althea and it's like it's cold to touch like metal, but that's really the only example that feels like it could have happened in my mind.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just kind of odd to think about the fact that if you're on a wizardwood ship, you would immediately know you're touching that wizardwood because it'd be cold and hard. Although maybe not because
necessarily
it's
cold.
alive.
Yeah.
And not cold. It's cold right now because Fitz found it in wet sand.
Mhm.
But how did it get there? Is this like, okay.
We've talked about this before too, right?
Yeah.
That we think that an Elderling city sunk
Yes.
below Other Island because obviously this was a hatching ground
Mm-hmm.
and the others were hatched serpents, but they spent too much time around humans and were misshapen and were not killed by the dragons, even though they should have been.
Yeah.
So obviously there was a big city nearby. So where did all those things go? And there must be some trick of the currents that kind of underneath kind of washes them up or something.
But
I don't know.
also, how is it that every time something is washed up for a character that we have, it is pertinent to what they're going to do? Or
magic.
I mean, I guess it is a book. Like, not to break the fourth wall, it is a book. Obviously, it will be important that's washing up on the beach every time because
Well,
it was
yeah.
written that way. But
Magic exists in this world,
yeah, but
There's-
honestly, this is the only thing where I am just kind of okay with being like, it's a magic beach. It gives you what you need when you need it. If you go to the magic beach provides.
Wow.
I don't need much more than that for this because it's a beach. I mean, I would love to know more. Don't get me wrong. Again, nosy, but I like for this one. I'm kind of okay with the magic and mystery of the
you
beach.
get to pick and choose, huh?
Yes, I do. That's the beauty of my reading and interpretation of the book for myself.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in this week for this chapter. Please let us know what you thought. You can email us at isfitshappy@gmail.com. We read all of your emails. Thank you so much for sending them in. Or you can comment on any of our social medias, which you can find on our website, isfitshappy.podbean.com. Or you can go directly to Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Threads, Blue Sky, Reddit, and message us on there. We're at isfitshappy at all of them. I was trying to think of any more.
I'm pretty sure you got them all.
Carrying that habit into the new year. So thank you so much, everybody. Can't wait to hear from you.
Look forward to hearing from you next week. All right, time for our favorite part of the podcast. We're going to talk about what you guys brought to our attention.
Yes, but before we do, and it's a lot that you guys have brought to our attention. We had the two-parter, and then we took a week break for Christmas. So lots of stuff that we need to talk about yet. But before we do all of that, I do want to give a shout out and thanks, of course, to Anna and Neva for supporting us always. And I also want to thank Degenhart and Gil for your support on Ko-fi as well. Thank you so much from both of us.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Without further ado, let's get into all of the emails that you guys sent to us first.
Yeah, so starting strong, we're going to talk about an email from listener Allie. Allie wrote in to talk about first how the Fool is talking about Dutiful looking like Fitz at that age that Dutiful is currently.
This is episode 271.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, forgot the preface. Yeah. And so Fool is talking about Dutiful looks like Fitz at that age, and he's more speaking to himself than trying to get a reaction out of Fitz, in their opinion. That line always reads as wistful to me. I think he is having the same thoughts as when he is saying, he looks so like you at that age, it makes my heart ache, in the next chapter. Perhaps he's contemplating what he did to Fitz, or at least what he perceives as his fault, and wanting to keep Dutiful away from that. And I think that's a pretty good read on the situation.
Yeah, I think we talked a little bit about how it was trying to get a reaction from Fitz. Maybe.
Yeah, potentially.
Yes.
That's how Fitz sort of takes it,
right,
I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's definitely interesting to think of it more as a sort of wistful, like reminiscence sort of thing, taking the Fool back to, wow, you used to be innocent too, and I ruined it.
Right. We talked a lot about the Fool's guilt in that.
Yes. Allie also wrote in to talk about our discussion on why Fitz cares more about learning about chivalry than his mother.
Right. And we're kind of equating that to later on Dutiful asking Fitz about Verity all the time.
Yes. And Allie says, I think Fitz doesn't ask the same questions about his mother as he does his father, because he did know his mother, and from his perspective, she failed him. With chivalry, there's always the question of what their relationship could have been if it existed. And I think that's a really important thing to think on, because Fitz, throughout the whole series, really does not touch on his mom.
Right. There is, in the first trilogy, we're getting it from after he put away his memories, right?
Yes.
So a lot of it's like there's no memories there. It's nothing. We learn later he basically shut out memories before he was 6.
Yes.
Like completely, because of that abandonment and the hurt he felt. And when he gets his memories back, some things come back.
Yeah. It's really interesting then to take that and look at it through the lens of he feels like his mother failed him, which we know as readers and all mostly grown-ups, I believe, who listen to us, that that's irrational. But Fitz was 6 when he was, in his eyes, abandoned by his mother. We can tell from context clues this doesn't really feel like something that was her choice, that she wanted to happen.
Right.
At least not in the way that it did. But it did ultimately mean that Fitz was taken from her, and she was not able to get back to him.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's a very interesting and cool look into that situation.
Yeah.
Thank you, Allie.
Yeah. And then Allie finally ends it by talking about, we've talked a lot about how Fitz doesn't quite grasp what he's seeing when he sees Dutiful sharing a consciousness with Lodwine.
Paladine.
Sorry. Paladine.
Yeah.
Thank you. Paladine and the cat. And says that he might not consider the woman he is looking for might be in the cat because of his belief that two people can't share a wit partner.
Yeah, and episode 271 is before the revelation that they have and him spying on Dutiful with Paladine and the cat.
Yeah, so it's more of like, who is this random woman that's talking to Dutiful?
Right.
Who is this woman that he's after? And so there's definitely that added layer of...
It's just not an angle that he would have ever considered.
Yeah, which is fair. That is a fair point. So thank you, Allie.
We also got an email from Simon, who is talking about primarily the beginning part of it is good enough parenting. So kind of adding into the parenting conversation, just another angle to this as well. Simon says, you don't need another person saying Kyle is trash and a trash parent too, but I also think he is.
Yes.
And part of it for me is how he parents Malta. She's trapped hero worshiping him just as Regal is trapped adoring Desire, with no space for either of them to become their own person. Someone sent a message to you guys a while back which really resonated with me, saying that Fitz is a great parent because of how well those he parents turns out, and how fully they're allowed to become their own person, regardless of what he is. And Jenna helps him let Hap do that really effectively. Simon goes on to explain that there is a child psychologist in the 70s, around the 70s, called Donald Winnicott, who talked about the idea of good enough parenting. Basically, you cannot be perfect. You are going to mess up. You just have to be good enough. You have to know, you have to tell your child that they have enough love and support, but also give them reins to do and make mistakes and grow into their own people.
Right. They still need boundaries and rules, but you don't want to go overboard and be helicopter parenting them. But they still have to have rules. So it's finding that balance.
Mm-hmm. So that's where Simon comes in and says, to answer Emma's objection about Desire being good or a bad parent, saying that Desire is a bad parent because she didn't let Regal grow up to be anything besides what she molded, right? It's that hero worship. And under that same lens, Burek is also not a good parent.
Right.
Because he kind of, it's not stated out that he forces his kids, but he basically wants his kids to grow up exactly like him.
Yeah.
In order to be good people, because that's the model of what he knows.
Right. Specifically his sons, right? So Nettle and Fitz get a little bit more leeway because they are not technically his children, and he sees them more of like extensions of the perfect chivalry. And so they get a little bit more leeway and it's not as bad. But from what we see of his treatment of his own sons, it's very cut and dry. There's no middle ground. It's be my son, reject wit, be a good horse breeder. That's your only option. And if you don't follow that, then you're out of here. And I'm not accepting you as my child. Which is,
a harsh read of Burek's parenting as well. But like under these umbrellas, I think that is kind of where he falls under too. Yeah. But that kind of blanketing, choking parent style is also what Kyle does to Wintrow and Malta.
Yes.
To different extents as well. So.
Exactly. Yeah. And obviously there are levels and layers and
of course.
I don't know. Everybody's different and all that. And all right, I'll give it up. You all win. I get so many emails and comments about how Kyle's horrible. I agree. You are right.
I think this, unless we get like an entirely different takes, I think that is kind of a good bookend to the parenting conversation.
Yes. So thank you all for your opinions. It has been a really fun conversation.
It has.
Yeah, it's been really interesting to see everybody's different opinions.
We'll open it up again for the Rainwild Chronicles with new characters. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the brand new characters. And then we'll have opinions again. But
Simon ends this parenting section with a poem from a brilliant English mid-century writer, Philip Larkin. The title of that poem is This Be the Verse. So you can look that up if you'd like to. I read it. It is funny. And it is it's a poem that really relates to the conversation, basically about parents passing along problems and creating new ones for their kids, but they were also had problems created for them by their parents. So.
Yeah, it's a good poem. It's very funny.
All right. So Simon moves on from the parenting conversation and kind of speaks to questions that we had brought up in the podcast, not specifically about events in the chapters, but about the fool's time at Claris before he left the first time, because it was very vague when he told Fitz in this book.
Right. And also how that relates to the person that Beloved has become and the sort of boundaries around self that they have put up.
Exactly. Yes. So as a reminder, the fool basically told Fitz that he went to this school and he was cherished, he was loved, but he had to leave because they weren't like teaching him anything.
Right.
Basically, you know?
Yeah. That's the short version.
Yes. So Simon reminds us that the servants wanted the fool to join the breeding program, which gave him time with the inbred whites, but he turned it into a story time instead, and it became disruptive. And then also that he talks about when he was first at Claris and treated really kindly by one of the servants. Simon can't remember the names, and I honestly cannot remember either of the names, any of the names either, or who the characters belong to, because it was kind of last book or last two books kind of there.
It's the old lady one.
Yeah. But then as the fool was treated really nicely by this person, eventually said no to her to something, and she had him beaten savagely and then resumed either the instruction or whatever the story was about.
Yeah.
It's not rape, of course, but it's a brutal violation and an enforced helplessness and violation of physical boundaries. In Tawny Man, we learn about him being forcibly tattooed by the people he thinks loves him, and them telling him that his pain is necessary in a sort of similarly making vulnerable, exposing, hurting way. And the pedophile, one of the four servants,
the yellow one,
is implied to favor the fool, not necessarily
do anything, but fawn over.
Yes, it makes the fool be obviously in an unsafe environment.
Right. And it's something that also, I have to find the name, Prilkrop is aware of as well about this person.
Yes.
Like, this isn't news. This is something that's known about this person.
This guy is so old.
Yeah. And we know this because the way that the other whites are sort of mad at the yellow one for liking Beloved too much when he's getting tortured.
Right.
Is like a conversation that gets had.
So Simon says, in my reading, as well as the stuff that happened on the journey to the Six Duchies, Beloved was brought up in his second home in an environment that was incredibly unsafe and all about violating physical boundaries and constructing their body as a tool to be used in ways that exposed and hurt it. And that even the teaching was effectively part of this same process of instrumentalizing him, which, as I read it, is what it's what led Beloved to constructing their own subjecthood as heavily dependent on maintaining bodily boundaries. So yeah, there is a lot more there than I remembered. I knew I was missing some context of that. And it really adds a lot of context to why this is. We did come to the correct conclusion, I think, about that is
ultimately,
and had people chime in about those conclusions and offer their suggestions, and maybe that's where we latched on to that idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really is kind of providing context to how Beloved reacts in these books specifically.
Right. And sort of that privacy and need for just autonomy and respecting the boundaries of others on how they want to be treated, I think is really important.
Feeling incredibly gross about doing anything forward or forceful to civil.
Right.
As much as just kissing his hand and implying like, hey, a threesome would be cool.
Yeah.
Like that's just like, no, can't do this. I have to get incredibly drunk to do this.
Yeah. And it's, I don't know, I think that really does, again, I think that we talk about this every other episode, or at least I do. I feel like the characters that Hobb writes are so multifaceted. Like, we never get Beloved's point of view.
No.
And yet we know so much about Beloved and are able to gather so much evidence and examples of the life that they live outside of Fitz and Fitz's knowledge that makes them into a whole person that makes sense, that we can see the reason why that they're making the choices that they're making, right? I think that's so well done. But it also, this sort of breakdown of what has happened really makes me wonder if the reason that Beloved chooses the paths that they do is because of that sort of teaching of your body is a tool that must be broken out of love. Yeah. And therefore they love Fitz, but still continuously put Fitz in these situations that hurt him and break him and
That could be,
whatever, because you have to, you're a tool.
Or at least subconsciously is like, even though apologetic for it, being like, this has to be done.
Yeah. And so I wonder if that sort of loosened up. I don't know. I don't have a fully fleshed out idea of it because obviously I just read this and haven't really looked into it. But I do sort of find those tie-ins really interesting because Fool is really apologetic, but still sees those options as the right way to do things to go on the path, the right way to use his tool of Fitz.
So thank you, Simon.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Simon. We also got a really interesting email from listener Quinn. First and foremost, I'll say Quinn also said Kyle's bad dad, which we agree. And then their hot take is that Kyle doesn't actually see Malta as a person. He doesn't have any respect for the rest of the family. Why would he treat her any different? To Kyle, Malta seems to be just a means for him to perform the idea of what he thinks a wealthy, doting father should look like without putting any thought or work into helping her develop as a person.
And that is very true as well. It's a really good perspective to have.
Yeah. So,
because even though Kyle seems to love her and gives her money, and like that's not a good way to parent, but at least it's like a way to parent. But if you look at it like this, like, no, he didn't really do anything.
Yeah, he just showed up and gave presents sometimes and then always said, yeah, you're right, you should get your way, 13-year-old. Anyway, bye, off to sea.
Right. Yeah.
Fight with your mom about it. So yeah, good point,
so thank
Quinn.
you on that.
But also Quinn was talking about how in a world of hetero skill and gay wit.
Right, which we got an email about before.
Yes, it's the queer allegories of the story that we had a discussion on previously. Quinn says Fitz is having bisexual struggles, like in their opinion, that tracks with his struggle to fit in with either community, sometimes being passively ostracized, sometimes being hostilely ostracized, and feeling like he has to conceal a major part of himself in both worlds. It really resonated with me. It's really rare to see bisexuality represented or discussed, and it's not uncommon to see bisexuality villainized, even within the queer community. And I thought that was a really cool take, an interesting read. I feel like I personally also read it that way, but that's, because that relates to me. It resonates with my life. So it's really interesting to have all these different perspectives and how people can read them differently just based off of, I have read a little bit of people talking about like transness in these stories. And I think that's so like an interesting take to get from it. I don't know. I just really like how people can
There's a lot of drug addiction allegories as
addiction,
well that you can have. Yeah.
It's, I think that is, again, a mark of a really well done book in that like all of us with our different perspectives
they're human stories, right?
Yes,
like,
it's human, and we can see ourselves in them, and we can color in those sort of experiences with what we're reading. And I don't know, I love that part of this podcast where we all get to like bring in our own little patches of the quilt to make our big quilt of the fandom.
Thank you, Quinn.
Thanks, Quinn.
We had an email from Joseph as well. And the title of this one is Emma's Crazy Tinfoil Hat Theory. So shout out Emma. So this is about Fitz being able to glimpse some of what Beloved sees. Joseph agrees with that theory and says it's supported by some of the text as well. To Emma's direct point at the end of the Farseer trilogy, I believe the last sentence of the epilogue, Fitz says that he and Night Eyes dream of carving their dragon, which that is not necessarily like looking into the future.
Right.
That could just be a skill longing.
Yes.
However, that can definitely be argued for that theory, which is cool. And then also in the broader context, Joseph continues, we see that many times when Beloved tells Fitz about their roles as White Prophet and Catalyst, Fitz is either overly dismissive or disproportionately upset. In the next book, when Beloved tells Fitz about how Beloved will die in his Lovejaw, Fitz panics and immediately plans for Beloved to be left behind. So obviously Fitz believes in what the Fool can do, right?
Yes.
He fully buys in, especially in this trilogy. The first trilogy was off and on until kind of near the end. This one, he's fully in on what is happening. And then Joseph goes on with the most compelling piece, which I had forgotten about, is that at the end of this trilogy, Fitz is basically seeing what Beloved sees. He knows he is, quote, supposed to burn Beloved's body with the feather crown, but he declares that he is the catalyst and irrationally puts the crown on his own head, enabling him to save the fool. I suspect Fitz can't see what Beloved sees, but he has some kind of sense of it. Maybe like he can feel it on a subconscious level.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think it is a neat idea. I think it sort of plays into another theme we've talked about a little bit, which is kind of akin to plot armor, but that Fitz is sort of drawn because he's a catalyst. He's drawn to certain places and events. I think this is like similar vein to that. This is just
I think it plays even more into like a greater theme of the book, in my opinion, is that when you spend so much time with one another, around one another, or mingle essences with one another, things are cross-contaminated. So maybe some sense, or, you know,
a little bit
like
of
that
ability.
subconscious feeling, kind of bleeds over to Fitz at very strong moments.
Yeah. I don't know, but I still really like the idea. I'm glad that you agree with me, Joseph. Thank you
for supporting Emma in her crazy fan theories.
Yes, not so crazy.
We also had another email from Allie. Thank you for another email. And this one is about kind of the similarity between Dutiful, Fitz, and Chivalry and the parallels in their stories. And Allie is arguing for the similarity between Dutiful and Chivalry more so than Dutiful and Fitz paralleling each other. Just because of, they were both the perfect, aloof, lonely princelings that then, because of love, had to diverge their path from, being perfect.
Right. Which Allie does say that patience is Dutiful's, is Chivalry's pull away. But I would argue, even if you're going to go this route, that potentially you could say that Fitz's mom is the original cat.
I think both of them, because Patience was also kind of the quirky, weird one of the court, and not in a very
She's
minor
not like
noble.
Other nobles.
Right. Well, I think she was extremely minor too, wasn't she, at the time? Like their family had Withywoods, I think, and that's it. Which is an estate, but it's not like...
She's more of like, probably a country noble. So
which is more popular now, we learned, after the Red Ship Wars.
Yes.
Like the Greylings, for example. But I'm guessing that at the time, her family was probably not in the top 20 choices that Shrewd would have had.
Yeah, I think so.
So I think both of them work there.
Yeah.
But they're both kind of pulls away for love, for that feeling of being accepted and wanted. And that's what Dutiful does as well.
Yeah. And sort of, Allie also talks about how maybe Fitz, just because he never had that pressure of being the next king, it's different for him.
Yeah.
But I would say he's also drawn away by love from his duty.
Yeah, true.
Molly is the one that takes him away from being all in on helping the Farseers fully.
Yeah.
And yes, I mean, I think
there's parallels in all of their stories. I really agree with that, Allie.
Definitely.
Yeah. And to that point, Allie also brings up nature versus nurture. Like Dutiful was not raised around Fitz or Chivalry, and yet all three of them have kind of extreme parallels in their stories.
And their personalities. But I would argue that even though the people themselves did not, like the fathers themselves did not have a hand in raising their children who ended up similar to them, they are raised by people who
raised the other
father and who knew the ideals of the other and really are putting their fathers on pedestals sort of vibe. So I would argue that it's a little bit different than a normal case, because it's not like they're devoid of any influence from who their father was or is assumed to be. So,
but also Allie brings up that's kind of like Beloved's wheel,
Yeah, definitely.
Repeating there.
Also, Allie had a question about earlier in the book. Why did the fool drink before meeting up with Fitz in the Tawny Man chapter? Was it just because he was nervous because Fitz is important to him?
And I think so. I think because Fitz grabbed the brandy from the fool's saddlebags and there was a little missing. So he's like, did he have to fortify before this meeting?
Mm-hmm.
And I think so. I think he was just really nervous.
I wonder if part of the nerves came from finding out that Fitz is living in a secluded cabin again. Like, this isn't the first time Fitz has lived in a secluded cabin with a wolf.
Let's see how bad this is.
Yeah, and like really worrying that what he's going to find is not his old friend. Or what if Fitz grew and hates Beloved now? Like, blames Beloved for all the things Beloved blames himself for. So I could see it being a little bit of that as well.
And Beloved has a lot of that self-doubt, right?
Yeah.
And especially after the Rain Wilds, even though it worked out, Amber didn't do what Amber wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I bet there's a lot of like, did I actually do okay? Like, is Fitz going to be okay with me?
Even just thinking about Amber didn't even pick the right catalyst and everything still worked out. Wondering, oh, did I really need to be there at all? Could Fitz have done it all on his own? Yeah. Like, did he not need to suffer as much?
A lot of feelings, especially if Beloved loves Fitz, you know, as much. And just being like, okay, I haven't seen this person for 15 years. Let me see if they still like me.
Yeah, scary stuff either way. And then finally, Allie was wondering, so we learned that the Fool sent toys to Molly, Burek, and their kids. This always seemed exceedingly strange to me because I never really got the sense that the Fool particularly cared about Burek, and especially Molly, outside of what they mean to Fitz. He has some care for Burek because he sends him Malta at the end of Tawny Man, but why would he send them toys, and where do they think these toys came from?
I think he cares for Burek more than Fitz needs to describe in the books.
Okay.
Because they had a long time, you know, planning and helping Fitz out and trying to get Shrewd out. That whole plan that, you know, went awry because Fitz ran through the halls and killed Justin.
Yeah.
So I think there was a lot more there than we got to see, because Burek also isn't one to shun somebody and be like, you're weird.
Yeah.
Go away. You know, like I think that was also a relatively safe-ish space for the Fool, because didn't we see the Fool go there to get wounds patched up?
Yeah.
So I think Burek was a safe space for the Fool to go to. I do agree that I don't think the Fool cares that much about Molly beyond what the importance to Fitz. Like, I think you hit the nail on the head there with, he's obviously going to care for her because Fitz cares about her.
Right.
And he's going to care about their kids because he cares about Burek, and because Fitz is very invested in their kids too.
Yeah. So I think it makes sense to me that Burek is receiving toys for his kid. I don't think it's about Molly at all. I think it's more Burek is a friend and I make toys, so I'll make his kids toys. Right. And also, I mean, Nettle is Fitz's kid. Yeah. And so I'm sure Beloved wanted to send something to Fitz's child.
Where do they think the toys came from? I bet Burek has come up with all sorts of excuses, from like gifts from the castle.
This is an old friend, I'm sure, is what Burek says. Don't ask anymore. Grumpy old man.
So thank you, Allie.
Yeah.
Good questions there. It's fun kind of coming up with your own like theories of what could fit.
Yeah, definitely.
Ale sent an email in as well, saying that it's been a while since the last one, but I couldn't wait to write. I finally caught up after a long while of intentionally postponing listening to the next episode out of fear of the chapter. It broke my heart the first read through, and I'll never be ready for it again. But oh well, here we all are, bunch of masochists.
Yeah.
And this is, you are not the first person to write in about this. I think Simon also wrote about the sorrow that is coming.
Yes, and we all are aware, and we're all still in it. We're all still doing it. Again,
exactly.
We will preface at the beginning, it is the chapter. We're not just going to blindly lead you in, but I am also scared every time I flip the page.
Yeah. So Ale also wanted to share a little anecdote about the first time they read the chapter where Night Eyes passes away. They were on a flight, and just like ugly crying in the chair, and the person next to them is like, what's wrong? And Ollie said the dog died, and the person assumed that their personal dog died and
said, oh no, your dog died. And then Ollie felt too embarrassed to explain, so
it's
just
a
had to be
wolf.
Yeah, it's a fictional wolf. not my dog, but yeah. I don't know if there's anything more mortifying than crying over a book in public, so yeah. I mean, at least the person was nice about it.
Yeah, that's really sweet. But also really loves your crackpot theories, Emma.
Yeah.
So keep them coming. You have earned your tinfoil crown, Queen.
Thank you so much. I kind of want to make a tinfoil crown now. We'll see.
If it is ever made, we'll post it for sure.
Yes.
We'll do a picture of Emma with that. Also wanted to ask if you guys have ever read Demon Cycle by Peter V. Brett. It's the only series that has kind of given me a world feel like Robin Hobb's, but in a very different writing style. I have not read it. I have heard it, and I've heard it recommended a few times. It's pretty far down my to-read list, but maybe I'll bump it up.
Yeah, I've never even heard of it, so I wouldn't mind giving it a try. Yeah. Thanks for the recommendation.
Ollie finishes this off asking about something that caught their attention very early on in the books, and it's always in the back of their mind. One of the first things we learn about this world is that children are named purposefully after a value that they will exhibit throughout their life and proven worthy of it as if bound by magic, right? That's like one of the first epigraphs, I think, in Assassin's Apprentice. And it is like an old wives' tale kind of naming thing to everything.
I think it's on the chapter where Fitz gets named Fitz Chivalry. Like, I think it's because it was such a oof, that's what they're saddling with him. Okay.
So every now and then, I ask myself, for example, why is Dutiful being everything but dutiful? Is Fitz destined to be just the son of all of his life? What the heck were they thinking naming a baby girl Desire? Well, it makes me wonder how this plays into the characters and who you guys think make the best and worst honor to their chosen name and its influences who they are by magic or by intention. So the naming thing, yes.
Yeah. I literally think about this every time a new named character comes in, especially if they have a name of an attribute. So like this, the epigraph of this chapter where it said Queen Frugal, I'm like, what a horrible name. Like Frugal.
I wonder if they, some of the older monarchs adopted a new name. Like, like the popes do in here. Just to represent what they wanted to kind of portray.
The monarchs in England for a time, I don't know that they did it for the last king, but they changed their name when they become queen or king. Because I don't think Queen Elizabeth's previous Queen Elizabeth was named Elizabeth her whole life. I think that's the name she chose. As British people sound off, or anybody.
We are American.
Woo!
I know for sure that the popes choose their name, so that's the example I used.
I know for sure the kings used to choose their name. Okay. I don't know for sure that previous Queen Elizabeth.
Maybe it's kind of like that with some of those older ones, but the new ones for sure. Like I did not even think about a little child being named Desire. I assumed that she spawned in somewhere in the world already like 32 and a villain. That's like
she had a kid.
Yeah.
And I mean, she does live up to the name. She is desiring of power.
Yes.
She always desires more than what she has.
She might live up to her name the best, actually. Because Shrewd desires her. He marries her out of love.
Yeah.
And then she's also incredibly ambitious and desires always more.
Yeah.
So maybe she lives up most.
Regal does not live up to his name. I mean, I don't know. In some ways,
because it's kind of a joke because a lot of them don't live up to their name. Like they do the exact opposite, right?
Yeah.
Regal?
I mean, in some ways, Regal always sort of gave off a regal vibe, but who he was at his core was not regal.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know.
Shrewd was very shrewd until he became sick, right? Yeah. And before he had a favorite son in Regal that kind of clouded some of his mind.
We don't really know what Chade's real name is, so we can't say if he lived up. I don't know. It's so hard. I guess tallest man.
True. Perseverance, maybe.
Perseverance is good.
Yeah.
Patience, she
No.
does not. Yeah.
Opposite right there.
I don't know. I think she has a lot of patience.
Lacey, though.
She's really good at lace. She's really good at making that lace. It's so hard. And it's so interesting because in this world Tom is a name that people can have. Tom
Right.
Badgerlock isn't a weird name.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
But like, chivalry was always very chivalrous until he wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And then Verity is very truthful to the point of not being a great politician.
Yeah. To the point where it actually hurts him.
Yeah.
I don't know. If it is magic, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it actually is magic. I think it's a superstition that's built into the world.
I believe that there is a magic to names in this trilogy, but I don't think it's in that they embed the virtue that they say they do. I think it's more of tying you to yourself, sort of like the old wives' tales of why you're not supposed to tell your middle name to strangers.
Yeah.
Because then they know your whole name and can control you. I feel like similar vibes to the magic of names in this world, in my personal opinion.
Okay.
So,
yeah. Well, thank you very much for the email.
Sorry to any British people I offended by
making guesses about
the monarchy. That's touchy. I know. I'm sorry.
We also had an email from Jess about aphantasia, agreeing with what OK Hat was saying. OK Hat was our comment from Reddit talking about aphantasia and the scenes and how they perceive what is written.
Right. And how sort of they don't need all of that detail in fighting. It's just sort of something to skim over in their opinion.
And Jess agrees with that. Fight and action scenes really don't do much for me. I tend to gloss over them until the outcome is revealed. For example, the scene where Fitz ambushes Piebalds, gets the prince. The general gist was that it was chaotic for the characters, allowing Fitz to obtain Dutiful. And that's kind of the end result, which is kind of all you really need.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with it.
So Jess goes on to say that books with a lot of action take forever to get through, even if the plot is exciting, because they're just trying to like get some sense of what is happening.
Right.
Whereas the character-driven novels I can totally devour. So again, it's kind of that feeling of what the scene is portraying, of what the characters are feeling, rather than the action that is driving their enjoyment of the books. And Jess says that Robin Hobb is just the absolute best at this, at doing this, in my opinion. I don't feel like I miss out on not visualizing a scene. Whenever there's a vivid scene, it's always conveyed in those kind of emotional touchstones.
Yeah.
On another topic, thanks for pointing out the symmetry of Fitz and Dutiful Beric and Fitz and Dutiful and Beric and Fitz in the last chapter. It's very well written. And also just says that they have Night Eyes' chapter dog-eared, so they know when it's coming on a reread, which is pretty smart to do. And are just dreading because they see it coming ever closer.
Yes. And so tough. I don't know how we're going to get through that chapter. We're going to have to do a lot of takes because it was pretty tough reading the last chapter, honestly. With
this one at least is like one buffer. Scene. The other one was like extended conversations of like and extrapolating on like the feelings going into it.
Yeah, that's true. So
with multiple characters, this one is also going to be hard, but it hopefully won't.
We'll rip it off like a Band-Aid. It'll be done.
Well, thank you, Jess, so much for that email. And oh man, we're almost done with emails. Last but not least, we have Melissa.
And Melissa's letting us know that they are along for the ride on the sad train.
Yep.
Another person's on board.
Mm-hmm.
Melissa says, "You are so right how much harder it is to reread Night Eyes' last big stand. When you know how deeply this trio loves each other, seeing them all bravely do what they must do for the Farseer line, it is heart-wrenching. I was holding it all together until you brought up that Night Eyes never gets to meet his first cub, Nettle, and how much he wanted to."
We're laughing now because otherwise we'd be crying.
Yes. "And then how much he wanted his pack to be whole and happy, but that's not the now of Wolf thought, so he doesn't really dwell on it. Night Eyes will always be the best of us, like all good pups."
True. And also, Melissa brings up at the end here, how they really liked how Night Eyes spoke up for the cat. Fitz had the realization that like this is an unhealthy bond
between Dutiful
between Dutiful and the cat and this woman. We need to sever this and kill the cat and hope Dutiful returns to his body. And Night Eyes is the one to speak up and say, hey, that the love from the cat is real. Like, yes, we may need to do this, but like...
But hey, that cat is not part of the human schemes. That cat truly loves Dutiful, and there is a real bond there.
Even as much as he hates cats, he has to...
And he hates cats. So the fact that he's like, whoa...
That cat in particular.
Yes. He's like, whoa, you're going a little too far there, bud. So I think that is a really cool thing to think on, that it really does show sort of the balance between the two. And the roles that they both play for each other in explaining how the human or animal side of things work.
Right. Yeah. So thank you very much for everyone who sent in emails. We have some stuff on Facebook as well.
Yes. Per usual, I hate using Facebook. It always goes away. I always have it pulled up right where I need it to be, and then I click into the app and it all immediately takes me back to the front page. I just leave it where it was.
This is on episode 272. So first off, we have a comment from Megan. And Megan says that, oh, now my Facebook exited out and went back to the main screen.
That's all right. I'll take over.
All right. Thank you.
Megan talks about how Fitz has a different expression on his face when talking with Dutiful than he did when he was in front of the piebald captured person.
Right, and because this is in response to your question on the episode, right?
Yes.
Why do you think Beloved isn't worried about Fitz harming the prince, despite how, gruff and tough he's being?
Yes. And so a little bit is probably that Fitz had a frightening dead-eyed expression with the piebald kid that probably isn't there when he's interacting with Dutiful, because he's not trying to harden his heart. He's much the opposite, thoroughly worked up.
Yeah. Which is really
angry.
true, yeah.
Yes.
He was trying to be really cold. And yes, angry, but really cold with the piebalds.
Yeah, no, I mean really angry at Dutiful.
Yeah, I know.
Oh,
that's what I'm saying. And now he has like passion in his eyes, and he's not as cold assassin, I need to torture you kind of vibes.
Yeah, because I mean really ultimately when he was dealing with the piebalds, he did not want to be there. He did not.
Right.
So yeah, but then also Megan says, I'm pretty sure the fool somewhat understands the depth of Fitz's loyalty to the Farseers and that Dutiful is his son. So Fitz might be willing to kill a kid for information, but he's not going to kill the Farseer line.
Which, yeah, definitely true as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that take a little bit more. I think they're both good takes, but definitely he would never harm the Farseer line.
The fool didn't even like consider trying to step in or saying like, hey, you're being rough.
No, he's just like, well, okay, calm down.
On the same episode, Bastion writes in as well about a lot of different things here. And there's a couple things that he wanted to share his thoughts on about Dutiful and Fitz's interactions.
Right. The first thing that Bastion wanted to clear up was sort of the moment that Dutiful offers to share his food. I was confused, Emma, was confused about why Dutiful and Fitz wouldn't offer him a place to sleep, even though Fitz was visibly making the bed up for the prince. So Bastion says, I think what was happening here was that Dutiful didn't want to owe Golden and Badgerlock anything, a combination of youthful pride and a dislike of being coddled as a prince. First, Fitz knocks him off his saddle and lets him go because he's the prince. Then Fitz is making up a bed for him after he admits he doesn't really have any blankets of his own. Dutiful doesn't want any charity from a man like that and knows Badgerlock is only treating him the way he is because he's a prince. So he decides to make it a bargain instead. Food for shelter, no special treatments. When Golden insists that the bargain isn't necessary, Dutiful essentially says, well, yes, from you it was just a courtesy, but from him it would have been a favor.
Yeah.
So that's
doesn't want to owe anything really.
Yeah,
or be attached to Tom Badgerlock.
Yes, which I actually like that. It explains so much to me. I feel like I can get on board with that, because I'm like, you're literally watching him make the bed. What do you mean he's not going to? So I like it more if it's sort of he's just a young, immature prince who doesn't want to be coddled. So love that.
Then the next part is about how you, Emma, had a frustration about how Fitz isn't telling Dutiful anything about the wit or anything, really.
Yeah, even when he's like spouting the misguided nonsense of the piebalds.
Sebastian has two reasons for that, he thinks. One is because Fitz is afraid to become a person Dutiful will look to for guidance, which is definitely true. He doesn't want to be attached to this any more than he has to. And the second part is because Fitz never likes to teach Dutiful about the wit, ever. Even when Fitz is an unofficially appointed skill master, Dutiful keeps trying to get Fitz to teach him about the wit too. However, Fitz never goes much farther in that than teaching Dutiful to separate his wit and skill. This is one of the reasons Dutiful goes on to befriend Civil, even after everything that happens with the Brasinga family. Civil is one of his only sources to information about the wit, since Fitz never does. Fitz doesn't want to teach Dutiful about the wit for some reason. Maybe it's because he's afraid Dutiful would become too much like him, too close to his animal. But at the same time, he doesn't want to preach the old blood sentiments, which he does not entirely agree with. Maybe it's because Fitz is afraid of what will happen if it became known Dutiful had the wit, and he's thinking in a very Fitz-like, if I don't teach him, he won't practice the wit, and the terrible scenario won't come to pass, which is sort of similar to his reasoning behind refusing to let Nettle come to court. I don't know exactly why Fitz doesn't want to teach Dutiful, but maybe you'll find it in my next read-through. And I think both of those reasons are extremely true to who Fitz is.
Yeah, definitely. I think, as much as I don't know, I put Fitz on a pedestal and want him to be the best version of himself and make all the right choices because it'd make his life easier. That's not who he is, and he won't be making those choices. So I think it is really good to refresh and remind myself, especially, what Fitz motivations are in all of this and where his core beliefs lie, and sort of the not wanting to be a teacher to Dutiful is really important, and something that would be on Fitz's mind even in this moment,
right?
Because he's thinking at the end of this, he's going back to his cabin at this point. He's not thinking
it's not his responsibility. He needs to just get Dutiful back.
Yeah. So I do like that explanation. I do like the idea that, there's sort of that, like, I'm putting distance so that you don't see me as an authority figure. And then even diving deeper into that later, not talking about the wit. And I don't know. Yeah. I don't know why he does feel so uncomfortable, but I also do because look at how he is raised, and he feels like it's a dirty thing. And maybe it's even a little more selfless in that he doesn't want to teach the wrong thing or that shame to Dutiful.
Right. There is some stuff that you touched on, Bastion, that we've also touched on, but never really dove into it. And this isn't exactly the right place to discuss it, but in general, Fitz has the raising of just diving in with Nosy, feeling that it was a great connection, etc., getting the shame from Beric, and wit is a dirty thing and awful and can get you killed, which is true. And then connecting deeply with Smithy and feeling that loss, and connecting very deeply with Night Eyes, and being chastised from the old blood and getting proper teachings from that side, and being like, all of these sides don't really have the correct thing that both my partner and I think is proper for us. Yeah. So who am I to teach that to the next generation if I don't even know what the correct thing is?
What the good answer is. Yeah.
So I think there's a little bit of that there too. So thank you for that. And then the last part of the interactions between Fitz and Dutiful is how Fitz was being pretty aggressive with Dutiful to begin with. And this is, something that we talked about a little bit this episode too, but Bastion thinks that it came from a variety of emotions, Fitz's self-hatred, and kind of his jealousy of Dutiful's ability to run away and not feel shame or consequences for just abandoning his duty. So that self-hatred is something that we definitely brought up during this episode as well, of kind of seeing failures reflected in Dutiful that he himself had.
Right. And also there's that added frustration of he was pulled back into this world that he didn't want to be part of because of a child's naivety and unwillingness to do their duty. And so there's also definitely going to be anger from that, which I think is a really good point.
And then, him not being like super rational when he's high on adrenaline and things like that, but him wanting to kind of chastise Dutiful and be like, you are being dumb.
Yeah.
Like, be smart.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, corporal punishment was what he was taught by Burek. Yeah. So it makes sense that his anger would have a physical reaction to a kid that's misbehaving. I mean, doesn't excuse it. It's not great, but
everything flows into the next interaction.
Yes.
Bastion also brings up the talk about how many people Fitz has actually killed.
Yes.
We had a kind of question about that and a discussion, and Bastion has gone back and looked at some things and found some quotes and kind of concluded that at least 5 non-forged people at Shrewd's behest. There were a pair of twins who he had to kill, a hoofer, an innkeeper, and the noble who assaulted a forged girl. 6 if you count Rurisk, which I don't think anybody would count Rurisk.
Yeah, that wasn't like a actual... he didn't think he was killing him.
Yes.
I guess he did technically.
And it was at the king's behest, but whatever. And then there were 17 other ones that Bastion believes were probably forged ones, but I think personally that the evidence for that is a little weak. It could potentially be real people as well.
Yeah, because it was like 7 over the summer. I killed 17 more times for my king, and it's after a forged killing.
Mm-hmm. It says, had I not already killed out of my own volition and defense, it might have been harder. And it was after he had killed, trying to escape forged people.
Yes.
So it could be relating to the forged ones and being like, I killed 17 more times and they were all forged ones. But
we do know that he goes out over the summer and leaves like poisoned bread for forged people.
That is my point. I don't think he considers those killings. I think he's like, I mean, he does in his own self, but that's like a duty where he doesn't like up close and personal kill these people because they're extremely dangerous. I think he just drops poison bread and runs away.
I don't know.
So I'm still skeptical on that. I still think that in that throwaway line that I killed 17 more people for my king that summer, I think at least some of those are real people. I mean, some of them could be forged ones.
Forged people are real people too.
Sure. Yeah, that's true. They do know they can remember what they're doing.
Yeah.
However, I think that line hits a lot harder if it is
just people,
real people that Shrewd directed him to kill because he was like 13 years old or something.
Yeah, not great.
So it is possible that they were forged, but at least guaranteed 5 non-forged, potentially up to 22 that we know of.
Yep. Yeah, so that's a lot of killing, actually. And then finally, they also brought up my comment about Fitz and My Black bonding because they don't think that happens. And I stand corrected because I was under the impression that eventually later My Black tries to sort of bond with Fitz, but it's actually the horse Fleeter, which Fitz steals off of a noble, and then Dutiful has to pay the noble for the horse to avoid scandal.
I was conflating those two as well.
Yes.
I thought My Black revealed their name to be Fleeter.
Yes.
But it's not.
It's not. Two separate horses. My Black never opens up to Fitz, which makes sense, actually.
But also makes fools kind of blow up at him even worse.
Yeah.
Like, it's not...
It just wasn't compatible.
Like, wasn't compatible.
That'd be like, you both like Legos, so get along, I guess. And it's like, well, I don't know. We like different kinds of Legos. We're not compatible.
But she's
friends.
A Capulet, and I'm a Monty.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you for that correction, Bastion. And thank you for all of your other comments. It is always fun to see what you have to say.
We had a lot of comments on episode 273 as well. The next episode. This is chapter 22, part 2. Last one before we took a Christmas break.
Yes.
So the first one is from, apologize again if I mispronounce your name, this is the first time that we have read it out loud, but I believe it's Sile.
I was gonna say CA, but I'm
I
thinking
looked up
Spanish.
I looked up a pronunciation, and I think it's a Scandinavian name.
Okay, I'm so
Please correct
sorry.
us if
So
we're wrong.
I just was thinking the Spanish rules, double L has that Y sound, right?
Yeah.
So, or no, llamas is a double L. That's an L sound. I don't know. Just ignore me. It's been years since I took Spanish. It's fine.
I don't even think it's the right language. But
No, also not the right language.
But anyway, thank you so much for writing in. First off, they say that how evil is it that Hobb has to take away Night Eye's Fool and Byrrc from Fitz all in the same trilogy? Traumatizing. I mean, of course it's traumatizing. It's Robin Hobb writing about Fitz.
Yep.
Agree with you there. But also wants to point out that all the little admissions of love from Fool to Fitz in this trilogy has them screaming, which
Yes.
like, yeah, there's a ton, like especially the last chapter when Fool calls Fitz beloved
Yeah.
again. Like,
okay. Like, oh my gosh. And as somebody who is like entrenched in queer literature, what do you mean that they were not meant to be in love? I don't know. I see it, but I'm also primed to see it. I get it, bias, but like.
And the last thing that they mention is that Shade's name, I think his name is pronounced Shade because it would be so perfect with how his two children end up being Lantern and Shine. You are correct. It is supposed to be pronounced Shade because the Fool mentions Shade in a poem, and Fitz knows that to mean Shade.
Yes.
However, we are keeping it consistent with how we started.
Yeah.
And I always kind of read it in between as like Shade. It's
Shade,
really hard
yeah.
to kind of verbalize it, but in my head, it's like right in between Shade
Or it
and
could
Shade.
be either. Yeah.
So it's really hard to kind of verbalize that, and just to keep it consistent, we just say Shade.
Yes.
It's
So,
easy to read out loud like that too, phonetically.
it is, yeah.
But thank you very much. Thank
Yeah,
you very
thank
much
you
for your
so much.
comments.
Bastion also commented on this episode to say the Fool has at this point already had the dream of his death on Aslevjal. He just doesn't know what it means yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I forgot that it was such an old dream because it was as a kid.
Yeah, with the quote from Golden Fool Revelation, the chapter Revelations is, "One other thing I shall tell you, I should not, but I will, so you do not think that it is your fault when the time comes, because I promise you it will not be. I prophesied it long ago, not understanding what I spoke of until this business of the tattoos was made clear to me. I dreamed it long ago, a child's wild nightmare. Soon I will live it. So when it happens, you must promise me not to torment yourself with it." So Fool has already had the dream about what's going to happen on his Levjal. He just didn't understand what exactly it meant until getting more context clues around what's going on with Eliana and Illustor.
So the Fool doesn't connect that wild nightmare to Aslevjal yet because he doesn't know that's where this is leading.
Yes.
Which also means that he has not had that line go blank yet.
Yeah.
That path of like foretelling go blank. So he doesn't know for sure that is what it means.
Yeah.
So it puts the last chapter into a different context where he just thinks like, this is a choice that we made. And it was probably one of the potentials that he would die there.
Yeah. I wonder if that's what makes him so sure later that it is death because there isn't those paths. Mm-hmm. Like maybe in this moment he thinks, oh, I'm going to die here. Seeing the other paths doesn't matter because I'm choosing to die here for this purpose.
This path, and Fitz will keep going and making his choices.
Whereas later it doesn't matter what choices Fitz makes. He can't see forward.
Right.
It just stops for his vision. So I don't know. I think that's really interesting.
Thank you for the context, Bastion.
Yeah. Cookie Baker also wrote in to say, I think Fitz did know in the back of his mind what is going on with Dutiful. He has a tendency to ignore things about his children that are too hard for him to confront for as long as possible, such as Bee's openness to the skill when she's a newborn and he first holds her. Also, during his training, Chade taught him not to jump to conclusions, but to observe everything and analyze later. which I think is a really good reminder that
Yes.
as much as I make fun of Fitz for, in my opinion, not being that good of an assassin, he is still an assassin who was trained by the best of the best. And so he does have that training of not just jumping to conclusions,
Right.
even though as readers, it's so obvious to us because, of course, it is. We're reading a book.
A lot of Fitz's story is out of his element of what he was trained in.
Yes.
He was trained in political espionage and assassinations, which is a lot of meetings, a lot of thinking about doing stuff and creating a plan and executing it. Some improvisation, but not nonstop action.
Yes.
Like he was trained as a soldier, but this is more.
Yeah.
This is like secret agent kind of stuff, and he was not trained in that kind of thing. So yeah, I think I agree with you. Like after the fact, he can sit down, think it through, and be like, oh, this is what it means.
Right. Definitely a lot happening. So yeah, I think that's a good reminder to think about as we go forward.
Mhm.
And then we also got a comment from Christian saying Dutiful learns about Fitz's real identity in the next book from Ketcherkin when Fitz is hospitalized after killing Lodwine.
So thank you for correcting me, and I think confirming Emma's thoughts on it. I thought he kind of got suspicions when they got back to the castle at this book, but next book for sure. Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
Also, Nettle sees the sculpture of Night Eyes that the Fool makes as a farewell gift to Fitz at the end of this trilogy. Then Fitz tells her the story of Night Eyes, which
she gets to know.
I'm so glad
Yeah.
did bring a tear to my eye when I read that. I can't wait for her to get to know about Night Eyes. And then also, it's kind of nerve-wracking that we know the Fool is actually able to use the stones with his marked fingers. The Fool and Prilkop travel together by the stones this way at the end of book 3.
Yeah. So when they're fleeing that hilltop and the Fool's like, no, only you can go with Dutiful. Like he could actually activate it himself.
Yeah. Which is crazy. I don't know why he decides to try it. I can't remember how he decides, yes, this will work. Maybe because at this point he can't see anything anyway, might as well.
Right.
But also we do know that it works as well because he gets his hand skinned and then they use it as a glove to travel through.
Dwalia
does, which is horrendous.
Yup.
Can't wait for that.
Yeah.
And then finally, Christian said, I read these books when they came out, so imagine the panic reading this for the first time and not even being able to decipher if any characters are in later books or reading spoilers on the internet.
Yeah.
But the worst is still to come. You're doing a great job of reigniting the panic, by the way. We're all crying together.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yes. You know what? I might have talked about this before, but I purposely don't read unfinished series for a reason. I do not want to have to. I hate being left not knowing what's happening next.
Sometimes that's fun though, because then you can go to those internet like forums and places and talk about theories.
I guess. I don't know. I think I just am too impatient. Also, I read so much that I forget who the characters are by the time I get back, and I previously was not a big rereader, so I'm like,
you
I'm
often
just
don't dwell on something.
No.
Yeah.
So
we do have one last comment on that episode. It's from Ellen, and this is regarding the comparison between the bonds of Night Eyes and Fitz and the dutiful Cat and Paladine. So this is kind of when Fitz is abhorrent at how close the bonds are, and we were talking about like the difference between the two, and you were like very like they're not that different.
Yeah.
Ellen chimed in to say, I think Fitz is comparing his everyday bond, which is very close and way too close for Black Rolf's sake, to what seems to be the everyday bond of Paladine and Dutiful. The event where they shared the body did not factor in because it was only out of necessity and only for a little bit.
Yeah, I think this is a really good way to frame it for me personally, because I was having so much time struggling with how Fitz is seeing this differently, why it wouldn't come to him. But I think, the context of Fitz wasn't joining Night Eyes because Night Eyes was like coercing him into opening his body. Like, this wasn't a let's share our consciousness together because we want to do that and be so close. It was a I need to live, so I'm gonna share a space with you temporarily. And
Dutiful has been urged to do this, not out of any special reason besides just this is how it's done. Just complete surrender, and not as a last resort. They're framing it as the next logical step of what you have to do.
Right. And especially with Fitz being a grown-up.
Yeah, so how do you keep that bond balanced?
Yeah, so what does that mean? The next step to what? What's after that? Then what? And obviously...
So that horror can come in, obviously. And the rereaders know the plan. But to Fitz, it's like, what are they planning? Yeah,
Fitz doesn't know. And I think that's important to keep in mind, too, is that Fitz doesn't know what's going to happen. Fitz isn't rereading this story. He's living it. And so he does have to keep, like, guessing at what's coming, whereas we know. And so it's easier to be like, come on.
Yeah. Ellen sums it up quite nicely, saying that he has to have been working under the assumption that Dutiful's bond was much like his own earlier bonds, naive and therefore dangerous, but not this manipulative and harmful.
Right.
So thank you very much, everyone who's commented on Facebook.
Yeah. And finally, we have 2 more messages left on Instagram. The first one from Gil, and that is first for episode 272. And they said maybe the difference between Fitz and Dutiful, or Fitz's perspective of Dutiful versus Fitz's perspective of himself, is that Fitz was the narrator of his story when he was a teenager, pining after Molly, while in this story, Fitz is the adult and he sees the petulant teenager that is Dutiful. And I bet all the adults in Fitz's life also thought he was petulant, which I would say is probably
He's painting himself as the romantic, pining after this woman waiting for me overseas while I'm off at war.
He's the Romeo to her Juliet, and life means nothing without the love that they share.
And everyone else is like, you guys are 14, get over it. Do not take poison.
It is never that serious. Like, let's wait a couple years.
Good perspective, though, for that.
Yes, so I like that a lot. Gil also brought up episode 273, saying, first, I think Fitz doesn't hold a grudge against Verity because he's dead, and everyone else is still alive.
You asked specifically to give context to this answer about why does Fitz hold Verity of all people in such reverence when, and kind of dismiss some of the things that Jade and Byrrc feel for him because of the wrongs that Fitz perceives, right? And not the wrongs that Verity probably did. And I kind of offered like, oh, he puts him on a pedestal and that's his king. But Gil offers this perspective.
Yeah, and it's just that Verity's dead. And it's easier to forget what dead people have done wrong to you.
Yeah, which is an extremely valid response to this as well, because he is gone. He's out of his life, so he wants to remember the good things.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. And I do think that makes sense, right? Like, there is sort of that pedestal that gets put on somebody who has passed and was overall a good person. Like, Verity did a lot of really good things and did care for Fitz. I mean, also did a lot of terrible things to Fitz, but I guess considering you can't really hold him accountable anymore, what do? You got to blame the bad stuff on everybody else who's still around, who could still fix something in a way, I guess.
Gil's last message here is saying, I don't have aphantasia, but I feel like OK Hat with regards to long descriptions in scenes in books. I tend to skim them unconsciously, and I can appreciate the fighting scenes in movies, but I don't care for them. Interesting.
Yeah.
So kind of going back to that previous email too, that it's really interesting how the brain interprets things differently.
Yes.
And I guess that is something that really resonates with Robin Hobb readers, at least the sample size that we have that are writing in, is that they connect more emotionally than with the action scenes.
Yeah. No, it's definitely interesting to see. So thank you, Gil. And then finally, we have
last but not least,
definitely not least, we have Peculiar Ponies coming to the rescue to verify whether or not Robin Hobb is riding realistic horses.
Right. So to preface this one, I believe it was the last episode, 273.
I think you're right.
when they were escaping the piebalds, and before they had camped, they were on their kind of like, oh, they're coming, we need to escape and run. I was like, it seems like she is riding horses pretty well up until this point, but this feels crazy to me.
Yeah.
And then we kind of called out Peculiar Ponies for a little bit more detail.
And Peculiar Pony said, for the most part, Robin Hobb is really good about riding horses in a realistic way.
Create immersion.
Yes, which helps create immersion. This isn't just a car with fur, they said, which I thought was a really funny way to phrase it. And there are some things that are sort of pushing it, but it's a lot of the same way that fantasy pushes what humans can do.
Right.
It's like believable in the setting they're in, but not necessarily fully true to real life.
Yes.
So that's really good to know. And also, Peculiar Ponies let us know that there is one type of horse sport nowadays that's endurance riding. The highest level consists of a 160-kilometer or 100-mile race in one day. They don't gallop all the time, but it might give you a perspective of what they are capable of. Mine could never, though. This takes a very specific breeding and very consistent training.
Yeah, so it's definitely possible what they're doing, and Robin Hobb does describe it fairly realistically. It's pushed a little bit to the extreme, and as it like an afterthought, it's a little immersion breaking that Dutiful and Fitz are riding the same horse the whole time.
Yes.
Because that is a very heavy load.
For such a long distance and have the speed that they're pushing the horse. But other than that,
it's all right. The last thing that Peculiar Ponies chimes in about is that Dutiful's horse stopping to follow because Fitz's horse, My Black, carried both Fitz and Dutiful, and Malta was following with the Fool riding her. So Dutiful's horse had no rider.
Yes.
But Peculiar Pony says it's actually a plus and a positive to Hobb's riding to have that horse follow them, because the first instinct would be to follow horses.
Because horses don't want to be alone.
Exactly. They're not herd animals necessarily, but they don't want to be alone, and they will follow the lead of other ones.
Right.
But when they get to the road and start galloping as hard as they can, the horse is like, this is too much work, this is not normal,
and
so stops following,
which is again what a real horse would probably do in that situation.
So
that's cool.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, really good to know. It feels realistic. It's so hard when you aren't knowledgeable about a certain aspect of a book, and it's like, I don't know, to me it feels real. So it's always good to get a professional experience and say, yes, it is realistic. And also crazy that a horse could do 160 kilometers in a day, 100 miles, whatever. That is a lot, actually.
Peculiar Ponies says that long rides are most often in walk and trot, kind of alternating and giving breaks. It's almost never full like cantering and galloping. No. Yeah. But thank you very much for the insight. Yeah. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone that wrote in. And it's always so fun to hear your guys' theories, your response to our theories, correcting us, or just giving your thoughts in general. We love hearing it all. And we are excited to see what this year brings with all of our crazy theories put together.
Starting this year off with a bang. This is going to be a long episode, even though it's like the shortest chapter we've had for months.
This always works
probably
out.
Probably our longest episode in a while.
I'm not known to be short-winded, so.
Perfect for a podcast,
exactly.
actually. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, we will see you next week.